Good morning, and welcome to the December IFC meeting. Committee Secretary, would you please call the roll?
Senator Cannizzaro, Senator Goycochea,
Present.
Senator Lang for Senator Dondero Loop, Senator Neal, Senator Nguyen.
Here. Here.
Senator Severs-Gansert, Senator Spearman for Senator Harris,
Here.
Senator Titus,
Here.
Assemblywoman Anderson,
Present.
Assemblywoman Backus,
Present.
Assemblyman Carter for Assemblywoman Brown May, Assemblywoman Cohen for Assemblywoman Peters,
Here.
Assemblywoman Dickman,
Here.
Assemblywoman Gonzalez for Assemblyman Watts,
Here.
Assemblywoman Garlow,
Here.
Assemblyman Hafen,
Here.
Assemblyman Koenig for Assemblywoman Kasama,
Here.
Assemblywoman Miller for Assemblywoman Mosca,
Here.
Assemblyman Nguyen for Assemblywoman Howdigi,
Here.
Assemblyman O'Neill, Assemblyman Yeager,
Here.
Chairman Ro Moreno.
And I am here. Thank you so much, and once again, thank you for your patience this morning. Maybe we shouldn't have a December IFC. There's a lot of substitutes. Traffic was not wonderful and flights were delayed, but I thank you for your patience. If you are joining us virtually and you'd like to call in during public comment, that number is 669-900-6833. The meeting ID is 871-7443-8010, and then please press pound. You will see members utilizing their computers. They are not ignoring you or not paying attention. They are following along. I will ask if you have any other electronic devices that you please either turn them off or put them on silent so that they are not disruptive during the meeting. And with that, we will go to our first opportunity for public comment. There will be another opportunity at the end of the meeting. If there's anyone here in Carson City that would like to make public comment, I invite you to fill in all of the chairs now. If you are in Las Vegas and you'd like to make public comment, go ahead and go to the table and fill in the chairs there. We'll start in Carson City, we'll go down to Las Vegas, and then we will go to our phone lines. Good morning.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the committee. For the record, my name is Cadence Matievich, C-A-D-E-N-C-E-M-A-T-I-J-E-V-I-C-H. I think 30 seconds of my 2 minutes are up. And I am the Government Affairs Liaison for Washoe County. And I'm here today to express support for items L19 and 20, and to thank DPBH and the Governor's Office for bringing this item forward and to urge your support for these services. They are critically needed in Washoe County. They will make a difference in our community. We thank you. Behavioral health has been identified as a priority for Washoe County for the upcoming year. We will be hiring a behavioral health administrator for the county, and so we look forward to these services coming online and for additional opportunity for partnership with the state for these critical services. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else here in Carson City that would like to make public comment? Go ahead and turn your mic on. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. My name is Mike Langton. I'm the attorney for Nevada Classified School Employees Association. I think this is the appropriate time to give opinion and to speak. I know it's limited. Did Mr. Louis Trio, president of the Nevada Classified School Employees, sent a letter to the committee, and it's an unsigned letter because he could not sign it and scan it and send it, so he sent it. But he's here. I'm here to say, yes, he did send the letter, and he hopes that the committee read it. In a summary, and his letter has 3 pages, and I think it's very detailed. Mr. Trio's letter demonstrates because allocation of funds is based on FTE under SB 231, not on salaries paid. Each group, teachers and classified, which have been separated in the bill, should be able to negotiate how the funds allocated to those groups are distributed to members of those groups. Some districts have agreed on an FTE basis, for example, Lyon County School District. Most others have or intend to negotiate amounts they determine, such as using a great portion of the funds allocated to the school district because of the inclusion of classified employees in the allocation to settle with their teachers to the detriment, the great detriment in some cases, to the paraprofessionals and other classified employees. We believe the intent of the legislature in including the classified employees in the amendment supports our position and should be followed by this committee when considering whether the school district that is currently making an application for partial allocation of funds because they've negotiated a collective bargaining agreement with the teachers, that should be considered because it takes away money from the classified school employees. In Nirvana, there would have been 2 bills, one for teachers and one for classified, but that ship has sailed. So when an application for partial allocation of funds is made, we hope you consider that. And I know that this would be an unpopular position with the teachers who have already negotiated, but it's an issue of fairness. Is it fair to take money from one group where the school district got, for example, $1,000 because that person was a classified person, and give it to a portion of it to the teacher who was 0.875 of an FTE, and that is about as simple as I can make it. So
Thank
we
you so
appreciate it.
much. Thank you so much. Is there anyone else that would like to make public comment? And I will remind, because I failed to state it, that public comment is 2 minutes. So if you can limit your comments in that time frame. Not seeing anyone else come to the table here in Carson City. Do we have anyone in Las Vegas that would like to make public comment?
Good morning. My name is Erica Nungary, and I am an education support professional in CCSD, as well as a member of ESCA, speaking in support of item E3. I would first like to thank the hardworking and dedicated support staff of CCSD for playing a crucial role in the education of over 300,000 students in our district. The contributions should be recognized and fairly compensated. Over the years, support staff responsibilities have evolved and expanded. We now undertake a wide range of tasks that are essential to daily operations of our schools, often going above and beyond our designated roles. Whether it's a school district, the Nevada Department of Education, or school administrators, the one question they often have is, how can we retain support staff employees? Item E3 is one part of the answer. Today, the IFC can help with that answer by approving the plan to give hardworking, underpaid support staff employees a reason to continue working in Nevada's public education system. The salary increase is not for the highest paid employees. The raise is for your lowest paid employees. I'll say that again. The raises for the lowest paid employees in the Clark County School District. The starting pay for our classified employees is $15 an hour. Most only work 9 months. The starting wage is not even for an 8-hour employee. Not all positions are 8 hours at that rate. For example, if you do the math, you will raise the pay for an 8-hour day employee working 187 days, making $25,245 a year for 9 months. And Just because sometimes it's a visual thing, I'll tell you what that amounts to. This is what $15 an hour is for 187 days, 8 hours. You may or may not be aware, but that amount can barely support an individual, and it most certainly cannot support a family in this city. ESPs will not be buying houses, cars, or taking lavish trips with our raise. What you will hopefully provide today with this raise is an extra tank of gas to go to work and serve our Nevada children, in many instances to get to our second jobs. Nevertheless, it is appreciated as every bit of our hardworking ESPs in CCSD and Nevada. We urge approval. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Autumn Tampa, speaking as an individual. I also am an education support professional, one of the 12,000 support staff employees that support CCSD students and teachers in every way possible. ESPs provide the majority of functions that support teachers and students, from the office staff to the lunchroom employees, the bus drivers, all technical employees like electrical, maintenance and grounds, and every education and instructional assistant in the classroom. We support ELL students in reading and writing and make sure that payroll gets out to everyone. Without us, CCSD would not function. Over the past 25 years, it has been education support professionals who have not gotten raises. Our raises were frozen for 10 years, and then we didn't add and reach up to it. We just started where we left off. We've also been last to get our raises and gotten the least when it comes to raises. ESCA negotiated in good faith with CCSD. We all worked together to find a solution, and the raises were signed off on by CCSD and ESCA and voted and approved by support staff. The amount of funds from SB 231 is not a huge amount. However, it will make the lives of ESPs better. We are not taking anything away from anyone else. It is simply that we're getting our fair share. CCSD's, our employees, support staff are, as my predecessor said, the lowest paid. I wanted to move to a new apartment, and I don't qualify to move anywhere because my salary's too low. So there are a lot of things. Most ESPs work 2 jobs. They try to work during the summer. They qualify for government assistance. We need more. And I'll be honest with you, I'm thinking of leaving and going and working somewhere else, even though I've spent 25 years here, because I can't pay my bills. I can't get out from under debt. I can't even move to a new apartment to better my life. So I really urge that you support this for classified employees, support staff, education support professionals. We're called all sorts of things, but we are the ones that hold up the districts in the state of Nevada. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Monique Newkirk. I'm here because I am a support staff person also. I am a part of ESCA. Any amount is fine, but we do need more in order for everyone to live. Rent is higher, groceries are higher, and it's hard for people, and most ESPs work from paycheck to paycheck. My family is grown, but you would think as a single person now that it would be easier, for you to do what you needed to do. But we don't make enough money. All I ask is please take us off the clearance rack. We all know our worth. Anything is appreciated. ESPs need more money added. And we know that the worth of an ESP is very great because without us, CCSD wouldn't work at all. They need us on their buses. They need us in the office. They need us in their classrooms. They need us everywhere. So for money to go higher than us and then we're on the bottom, that makes a person's worth go down when we know our worth is 100%. So we do need that money and we do need raises. We go to work every single day and work very hard. Some of us go to work, our shift may not start till 7. Some of us may be there at 6:10, 6:30. because we're dedicated to CCSD and we want more money. We're not asking for the world, but we just want to be able to live in the world and travel it also. Thank you.
Thank you. Next person.
Thank you, Chair, and the honorable members of the Interim Finance Committee. I am Brian Lee, and I serve as the Executive Director of the Nevada State Education Association. I wish to speak to Agenda Item E7 regarding the request for SB 231 funds from the Lyon County School District. NSCA has previously sent a letter to the members regarding this matter, and rather than just restate the information contained in that letter, I wish to provide additional information. It is clear on its face that the plan submitted to this committee is not a salary raise, nor is it intended to be such. It is a one-time flat bonus. It is the position of NSCA that this conflicts with SB 231, which does not allow for such use of funds. Assuming arguendo, however, that such a use is permitted, it is clear from the legislative history that 1, this committee reserved the right to review and reject or approve such uses of funds under subsection 2 of section 1 of the underlying bill. The committee may, rather than shall, approve the expenditures of funds. And 2, it is the clear intent of the legislature from the testimony given, contemporaneous statements of the bill sponsors, statements of individual legislators, that the funds were used meant to support continuing salary increases tied explicitly to the size of the underlying raises. It was a matching system for each educator in the state. NSCA therefore requests that this committee reject the plan submitted by Lyon County and send the matter back to the district to bring it into compliance with the clear intent of the legislature. Additionally, it should be noted that the decision to apply one-time bonus funds was not the product of collective bargaining, but rather a unilateral decision of the Board of Trustees with minimal notice to the union. During the collective bargaining process, the only references at the bargaining table to the use of this money was a percentage salary increase for all employees. The district never proposed the use as a one-time bonus, nor did it deviate from such a percentage increase. At no time did the district bargain over the specific method that is currently being used, or did it reserve to itself the right to unilaterally impose this decision. Rather, with short notice to the union, the Board of Trustees, on a divided vote, voted for this flawed bonus plan. At no time was the union offered the opportunity to bargain over either the merits or the effect of the decision that was made. Simply put, the district rammed this plan through without meeting its collective bargaining obligations under 288 to meet over either the merits of the decision or the effects of the bargaining. This conflicts with the clear legislative intent and therefore provides a separate and discrete grounds upon which this plan may be rejected. We therefore ask the Interim Finance Committee to use the discretion the legislature reserved for itself to reject and remand this proposed plan back to the Lyon County School District to meet with the clear intent of the legislature. Thank you.
Thank you. Next
For the
person.
record, my name is Jason Gately, Secretary Treasurer, Teamsters Local 14, speaking as a designated representative under the ESEA collective bargaining agreement with Clark County School District. I'm speaking in support of SB 231 and hope that this board votes today to release the funds for support professionals. Support professionals day in and day out risk themselves, put themselves on the front lines to make the school district operate, the 5th largest school district in the nation. We negotiated our collective bargaining agreement in a timely fashion. We negotiated in good faith, and it's time for the monies that were allocated to be put into the members' pockets without any delay. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Misty Olmos. I am the current ESCA Paraprofessional Director, and my current position within CCSD is a Special Education Intervention Specialist. I represent paraprofessionals like special ed aides, teachers' aides, and transportation aides, and many more. I have met with many of them on countless times, and they ask me when they will get the SB 231 money. Our unit negotiated in good faith with CCSD to get this money to our lowest paid employees, and I could not imagine having to look at any of them and tell them that they would not be receiving this now. These support professionals work hard day after day with some of our most vulnerable students. They are hardworking employees and have stuck with CCSD while we weather these trying times in our district. Some of our support professionals can barely make ends meet. They sometimes have to eat school lunch and breakfast to have a decent meal. We owe them more. We could do more. SB 231 is a step forward to help them, and I ask that you honor our contract with Dr. Jar and with our union and give the support professionals the SB 231 money they were promised. We can do better for our youth if we aren't. We can't do better for our youth if we aren't at our best. No one should struggle while we are working with our students. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next person.
Morning. My name is Chris Urbanski. I'm the Vice President of VSEA. I'm speaking on behalf of our President, Jan Giles. In partnership with Teamster Local 14, we represent approximately 13,000 support professionals, all at the Clark County School District. ESEA worked very hard over the last 8 months to negotiate our new contract with CCSD. This is the first time in over 20 years support professionals were able to start the school year with a new contract in place. During these negotiations, a considerable amount of time was spent negotiating an equitable wage package. The package included the SB 231 funds. ESEA entered into negotiations knowing the turnover rate for support professionals at CCSD had hit a record high, and at the same time, CCSD was unable to fill support professional vacancies at the previous salary schedules, which were no longer competitive in numerous job markets. Due to the extreme staff shortages, many schools and students were in an unsafe environment. In negotiations with CCSD, it became critical that the SB 231 funds were properly distributed in an equitable way to the lowest paid employees at CCSD. For the first time in many years, CCSD, under the oversight of Dr. Jar and the current CCSD trustees, support professionals have been prioritized as the essential employees we are. The current CCSD proposal is for the disbursement of the SB 231 funds is an equitable disbursement. This proposal does not take away funds from any other bargaining group. ESEA believes this disbursement will go far in addition to our recent negotiated pay raises to bring the lowest paid employees at CCSD up to a living wage. This disbursement is also needed to retain our experienced support professionals and to raise the wages of the lowest paid. ESEA asks that you move the CCSD proposal for approval so we can quickly get these needed dollars into the hands of our support professionals. Thank you.
Thank you. Next person.
Good morning. My name is Dawn Echeverry, and I'm the president of the Nevada State Education Association. NSCA is in strong support of item E3, an allocation of $58 million to support salary increases and benefit costs for education support professionals in the Clark County School District. We ask the legislature to respect labor by honoring our collective bargaining process and allocating these funds. Late this summer, ESEA ratified a collective bargaining agreement with the Clark County School District. This agreement, over 2 years, includes salary increases, an employer's coverage for the PERS increase, a minimum wage of $15 an hour, and an increase in the employer health insurance contribution. In September, ESEA signed a memorandum of agreement with CCSD regarding these funds. While the amount available for each district has not been announced, this agreement states, upon receipt of the above described funding details, CCSD will immediately commence negotiations with ESEA relating to the form and methods used to distribute to professional support staff approximately 33.4% of the funds allocated by SB 231. In short, SB 231 monies have always been an essential part of ESEA and CCSD's collective bargaining process. So we strongly asked this committee to allocate these funds to the hardworking women and men represented by ESEA. Meanwhile, item E7 for Lyon County is a very different story. Lyon County proposal is not salary increase, and it is not subject to the collective bargaining process. NSCA asks you to do the right thing by honoring the collective bargaining process. Please support E3 and oppose item E7.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Carolina Ospina. I'm a Teamster representative designated with the ESEA contract at CCSD. I'm here to speak on behalf of the custodians with the district. We have 1,500 custodians at the schools. These workers, they're the back and bones at these places, and they clean and sanitize these facilities every single day. We know these workers as one of the lower paid classification in the district. This bill is very important for them and for their families. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Not seeing anyone else at the table. Is there anyone else in Las Vegas that would like to make public comment at this time? Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Tamura Jameson, and I am a business representative for Teamsters Local 14 here in Las Vegas. I am asking this panel to please pass the bill of 231. I represent the bus drivers and CCSD transportations, and it is very heartfelt to hear our drivers tell me that they are being evicted from their apartment because they're unable to pay their rent and being denied apartment assistance someplace else because of their low income. I look at a lot of people in this room. We are working, we have good jobs. Consider ourselves probably middle class or upper class, but our bus drivers and transportations is lower class. They're getting lower class wages. So it's hard to tell someone, to encourage someone to hang in there. It's going to get better when they look around and see that things are not happening properly, or the economy is getting worse. Their rent is going up. Living wages is not as good as they should be. So if we could put them, as I heard someone else say, get them off the clearance rack, put them on a different rack so that they can support their families, that would be a great thing for this panel to take in consideration. They can't even go get a lobster tail because they can't afford it. They are on food stamps. Even in the summertime, they're working 9 months, have to rob Peter to pay Paul to try to find monies to feed their families, going to food banks. I have helped to push them in the right direction of where to go to get food for their families. We're talking about people that have been with the district. They have supported the district. These are members that have been with the district 25, 30 years, still making a little bit of funds. Their wages have been on hold. They have been frozen. They've done everything that the district has asked them to do, and it's up to these people, you guys on this panel, to look it within your hearts and see what and when and how quickly can you get this money in their pockets, because they are starving. These people and their families are starving. They're starving for money. They're starving to live in a better way, and they're starving to live in the middle class, and they are not. They're in low-income housing. I am asking you to consider allocating this money as quickly as you possibly can, and that would help improve the working conditions in the CCSD Transportations Department and all over. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning. Thank you for your time. My name is Johnny Ortega. I'm also a designated representative for CCSD support staff. I represent 857 support staff professionals that take care of all your AC, all the grounds maintenance, as well as the chiller techs throughout the support staff. And I'm in support of this bill. And again, like my colleague said, it's important that we get this money to them as soon as possible. I just want to say thank you for your time, and let's do the right thing.
Thank you. Next person.
Thank you. Next person.
Good morning, Good morning, legislators. My name is Terry Schuman, S-H-U-M-A-N, and I am here to speak on SB 231. Most of my writing has already been stated, but I need you to see the importance of what everybody has already said. $58,051,168 may sound like a lot of money to you and me, but to our support staff, it means everything. I work with a support staff person who is holding down 3 jobs. On Sunday and Monday, he's working as a, Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday, he's working as an Uber driver. On Wednesday and Thursday, he goes somewhere else. On Friday, Saturday, he's a security officer at an apartment complex. Why does this guy who can't stay awake during the day, takes naps during lunch, have to put up with this? We have the money in front of us to be able to support him in a better lifestyle. And this is only one person. This is my SBTA in our classroom, and so that's why I can speak about him. But so many of our other support staff have to take on so many other positions. We're living beings. We have families. We want to have special things, but we can't afford it. But because we have this chance, let's not give it up. As you already heard, many of our support staff hold different positions. There's not a position in our school, and I'm telling the truth here, that our support staff does not enter their door at some time of the day. Our support staff goes into every single classroom in our school. And that's how valuable they are to us. We've already heard that we have positions. We have our cafeteria workers, the custodians, SPTAs, teacher family assistants, reading assistants, bus drivers, our office staff, and I can go on and on. These are a lot of people that you have the chance to impact their life and make it something special for them. I'm asking you today to pass SB 231, the second part, that we can provide these people with what they need to have a successful life. That's what we're all asking for. We're not asking for nothing that isn't already on the books waiting to be given. We just need your approval for it today. Thank you for your time and for coming down here today. It's great to see y'all again.
Thank you. Go ahead.
My name is Tracy Phillips. I am a support professional, just like all others that have come and spoke about our job families. We are educators as well, supporting this district. And I'm also asking you to please support this, to vote yes. To vote yes and support that we will have allocated monies coming to us. Yes, the cost of living is astronomical, and we still cannot afford to pay, to make ends meet. And we are robbing Peter to pay Paul, and there's no excuse for that. So we're asking you to support us in this effort. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Not seeing anyone else in Las Vegas coming to the table, we'll go to the phone lines. BPS, do we have anyone joining us on the phone lines that would like to make public comment at this time?
Thank you, Chair. If you would like to offer public comment, please press *9 now to take your place in the queue.
Irvin, KENTERVIN, Nevada Faculty Alliance. Good morning. It has been just about 1 hour, less than a week, since the horrific mass shooting at UNLV on December 6th. Our colleagues and students are in pain, dealing with trauma, sadness, anger, and fear. We grieve for the senseless murders of our 3 colleagues, Dr. Patricia Navarro Velez, Dr. Chajan Jerry Chang, and Dr. Naoko Takamaru. The 4th victim, a visiting professor, is still fighting for his life. All are underrepresented minority faculty members. We can hardly imagine what their families, friends, colleagues, and students are going through. Words cannot express our sorrow. Countless others at UNLV have suffered trauma from the lockdown and forcible evacuations. On behalf of the Nevada Faculty Alliance, I would like to thank the University Police Southern Command for the heroic and professional response. Their fast action saved lives. We thank President Keith Whitfield and so many others at UNLV, NSHE, and the community at large for their caring actions. We thank President Joe Biden for meeting personally with UNLV representatives, including Doug Unger for the NFA. After these events, our faculty, staff, and students do not feel safe. Across all NSHE institutions, we see safety deficiencies. Therefore, we call on the Board of Regents to request and the Interim Finance Committee to grant emergency state funding to repair the extensive damage at UNLV beyond what self-insurance will cover, and to improve security on all NSHE campuses. Along with our faculty senates, the NFA stands ready to take part in the discussions on safety standards. We at NFA work to empower our faculty to be fully engaged in our mission to help students succeed. Empowerment at this moment means a learning and working environment where everyone feels safe. Thank you.
Thank you. Next caller.
Doug Unger, D-O-U-G-U-N-G-E-R, Nevada Faculty Alliance. Thank you, Chairman Merle Moreno and members of the committee for considering what I have to say. I had a statement written, but want to get across how disappointed and sad I am that in the first meeting of a legislative committee, the chair did not recognize the murders of 3 state employees at the top or the beginning and just continued on with business as usual. It is not business as usual on the UNLV campus after the mass shooting just a week ago. We are still deeply in grief for 3 of our best teachers who were murdered, one of whom I knew well, the other I knew as a very, very esteemed and devoted colleague. It is inconceivable that we will return to campus with bloodstained halls, bashed in doors, broken glass, and triggering memories. But I know we must in January. But our faculty are not going to feel safe, and our faculty do not want to return to class, and our students don't want to return unless there are serious safety improvements to our campus. And these safety improvements are going to cost far more than what the insurance will pay. We are asking the Interim Finance Committee of the Nevada Legislature to acknowledge the mass shooting of its 3 employees, 3 state employees, 3 devoted teachers, and to be able to commit as we work toward a whole series of safety improvements to helping us pay for them very urgently. Nevada has a $1.23 billion rainy day fund. I'm here to tell you that it is raining on the Nevada system of higher education right now when it comes to student safety, teacher safety, and staff safety. You are all in a position to help us make sure the next rain that happens is not yet another rain of blood. Thank you.
Thank you. Next caller.
Hello, my name is Jose Centeno. I'm a member of the Teamsters 14 and a fire sprinkler technician at the Clark County School District. And I'm just calling in support of the fund allocation. The legislature approved these funds nearly a year ago. And with the promise of wage increases for staff, we work hard for the district and we feel we deserve our fair share. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And I believe we have one more caller. Is that correct? Do we have any other callers?
Yes, Chair, one moment.
Thank you.
Caller with the last 3 digits, 250. You are unmuted and may begin.
Definitely not.
Caller, are you there?
You know what this phone number is. Hello?
Hello, caller. We can hear you.
It ain't me. Yeah, hi, my name is Jay Witecki, 29-year Clark County School District employee, proud member of the Teamsters Local 14, and calling to say that you need to allocate them funds and get them out as soon as possible. District's been ripping us off long enough, and something's got to be stopped about it. Like the one lady said, $15 an hour comes out to $25,000 a year, but we got administrators getting $45,000, $50,000 a year raises. And time has come to where the district is going to fall apart. My first 15 years, the district was great. Last 14 years, the district has gone downhill rapidly with unqualified people running it, all the way to the top to JARA, the board, and everyone who's running the maintenance department. So we'd really like to get that money out there so we could basically live. A little 6% we got on our contract negotiation, but yet the admin got a 10% who already makes $150,000 a year. So if you guys could vote yes today, and we can hopefully get that money before the end of December. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any other callers?
If you have just joined us and would like to offer public comment, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. There are no other callers wishing to offer public comment at this time.
Thank you so much. There will be another opportunity for public comment, as I said at the end of today's meeting. Committee Secretary, I want you to know that Senator Lang is here and present. She was there when her name was called. She just missed it, so I want to make sure you had her in the minutes. And with that, we will go on to the next item on our agenda, which is the approval of the minutes from our June 14th, 2023 meeting. And before we do that, I will let everyone here know and the members know that we will be taking a lunch break at 2 p.m. today. It will be just for 30 minutes. And 2 p.m. is a kind of a strange time to have lunch. However, there is a vigil for the victims of the shooting at UNLV, and that gives the members an opportunity to participate, although virtually, in that vigil. So, yes, we do recognize the shooting. It has affected all of our lives intently, especially those of us that know students and faculty at the university personally. So we do recognize that, and we will be taking lunch at 2. So on to the next item on our agenda, item C, the approval of the minutes. Members, you have the minutes in front of you. I hope you've had an opportunity to look them over. Is there any questions or adjustments or corrections to the minutes? Not seeing any, I will take a motion to approve the minutes.
So moved.
I have a
Backus,
motion.
second.
I have a motion from Senator Carnazero, a second from Assemblywoman Backus. Any discussion on the motion? Not seeing any. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? And the motion carries. The next item, we will go to the list of items on today's agenda, and I will turn it over to Ms. Kaufman about the items that we will be pulling and see if there's any additional items that the members would like to pull. Ms. Kaufman?
Thank you, Madam Chair. For the record, Sarah Kaufman, Legislative Council Bureau Fiscal Analysis Division. I will be going over the items that are recommended to be pulled for lists J, L, M, and T. So beginning with list J, items 1 and 2 are recommended to be pulled. And those are recommended to be considered with items L1, L2, L17, L18, L19, L20, L21, and L22. So all of those would be recommended to be pulled together. With regards to List L, so this is the approval of work programs revisions for the expenditure of American Rescue Plan Act Coronavirus State Fiscal Recovery Funds in accordance with NRS 353-220. Again, items L1 and L2 are recommended to be pulled. And again, those would be reviewed with items J1, J2, L1, L2, and L17 through L22. Item L3 is recommended to be pulled. Moving on to page 2 of the list, I would just note that item 6 was withdrawn after the agenda was posted. There are no items recommended on page 3. And then again on pages 4 and 5, items L17 through L22 are all recommended to be pulled in combination with J1, J2, L1, and L2. Next, I'll move on to List M, which is the approval of gifts, grants, work program revisions, and position changes not involving the expenditure of American Rescue Plan Act Coronavirus State Fiscal Recovery Funds in accordance with Chapter 353 of NRS. There are no items recommended to be pulled on pages 1. I would just note on page 2, item 5, M5, was withdrawn. Item M7 is recommended to be pulled with items M56. There are no items recommended for pages 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Again, on page 11, item 56 is being recommended to be pulled with item M7. On page 12, I would note that item 57 was withdrawn after the agenda has been posted. There are no items on pages 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, or 18, as well as 19. Madam Chair, that brings us to List T, which are the informational items. I would note that item T6B will be heard with item F2C. And item T92 is being recommended to be pulled. And finally, item T12B will be heard with item F3. And Madam Chair, that concludes the discussion of items that have been recommended to be pulled.
Thank you so much, Ms. Kaufman. Members, are there any other items on today's agenda that you would like to have pulled for further discussion? Not seeing any here in Carson City. Is there anyone in Las Vegas that have any other items they would like to have pulled for further discussion today? Okay, not seeing any motion there. I will also add there is one item that we are going to defer to a future meeting, and that is item E3. And I want to be very clear before we go on. Senate Bill 231 is not a bill that's to be voted on today. Senate Bill 231 was a bill that was championed by the majority leader. That $250 million came from this legislative body because this legislative body understood the need that was going on in our schools, especially with our support staff. I've heard the heartbreaking stories from public comment today of the wages being on hold, the wages being frozen from those that are working at CCSD, and that is shameful. And we knew that. That's why this legislative body prioritized that funding to be available for educational support professionals and educators. What we have before us today, and item E, when we get to it, was for school districts to come with a plan, and that plan was supposed to have with it a plan for budgeted increases for salaries for teachers and education support professionals. The plan from CCSD does not encompass all of that. And yesterday afternoon, I received an email that Dr. Jara would not be here to present the plan that he does have. This body hears what you have said. We acknowledge it. We knew that during the legislative session. That is exactly why we made sure that the $250 million was appropriated for this purpose. However, because there is not a complete plan, we are going to defer this until we have a complete plan brought before this body. So, with that, members, we have the items that we are to be for further discussion. With that, I will ask for a motion to approve all other items. The items we will be hearing will be J1 and 2, which are just informational. L1, 2, 3, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. On list M, M7, M56. And then on list T, it will be T6B, 9A2, and 12B. All other items would be approved. Do I have a motion?
So moved, Madam Chair.
Thank you. I have a motion from Senator Canizaro. Do I have a second?
Backus, second.
I have a first and a second. Any discussion on the motion? Not seeing any. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries. I will give everyone else that your items were not approved an opportunity to go ahead and leave, and I'll wish you all a happy holidays. As the room is clearing, just for all those other school districts, you're not off the hook. You're still stuck with us. Sorry about that. All right, we'll bring the meeting back to order. The next item on our agenda is item D. It's a statement of our IFC contingency account, and I will ask Ms. Kaufman to make that statement.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The statement of contingency account balance can be found in the committee's packet in Volume 1, and that is page 75. I would note that there were 15 requests for contingency account funds, 4 of which were requests for the unrestricted general fund. 1 request was for the unrestricted highway fund, and 10 requests were for the restricted general fund. I would also note that the chair has deferred one of the items that were identified for the restricted general fund, the approximately $58 million to Clark County School District. On page 75, the amounts that were provided on that summary did include Clark County. And so I will go through the revised amounts that no longer include the provision for Clark County School District and the restricted general fund appropriations. So for the balance for the contingency account prior to any actions taken are $467 million in total total funding for the contingency account. There is a total of $26.9 million that is being requested in both restricted and unrestricted requests. And if all of those are approved today, there would be $440.2 million in total contingency account funds. Of that, there is currently $24.8 million in unrestricted general fund appropriations. There's currently $1.2 million being requested in unrestricted general fund appropriations, and if that were approved today, there would be $23.6 million in unrestricted general fund appropriations. With respect to the unrestricted highway fund, currently there is $1.6 million in unrestricted highway funds. There is currently a request for $517,500, and if that were approved today, there would be $1.1 million remaining in the unrestricted highway fund. And then with respect to the restricted general fund and highway fund, there is currently $440.7 million. There is currently a request of $25.2 million, which, if everything were approved today, would leave a total of $415.5 million. And Madam Chair, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you so much for that explanation and the corrections with the item that was deferred. Members, do you have any questions for Ms. Kaufman? Not seeing any questions here in Carson City. Are there any questions of the members there in Las Vegas? Not seeing any. This is an informational item, so no need to take a vote. That takes us on to item E. It's a request for allocation from the IFC contingency account for Section 1 of Senate Bill 231. And each school district was directed to have a representative to present and provide to the committee a summary of its salary increase plan pursuant to that bill. And it says representative, but we kind of expected every superintendent. I appreciate your being here. I hope this won't be a long day. I'm on the 9 o'clock flight, just in case, but I hope it won't be a long day. And we will get started in order as they appear on the agenda. And the first school district will be Carson City School District, item E1. Good morning and welcome to IFC.
Good morning, Chair, and thank you. My name is Andrew Fueling, better known as AJ generally. I'm the superintendent for Carson City School District. Here today presenting a great deal of gratitude to this body for the allocation that came with Senate Bill 231. the Carson City School District was eligible through the calculations that occurred for $5,289,991, but who is counting? And so we're very excited about that. In our negotiations with our two bargaining groups that apply here, our certified association and our classified association, we finished a 2-year contract for the current school year and the next school year, so fiscal year 24 and fiscal year 25, not including any SB 231 funds. The total cost of those outcomes were almost $9.9 million. So well in excess of the allocation that is available to us through SB 231. For our groups, the way that it has worked out, it is basically the equivalent of a 4.45% increase as compared to what fiscal year 23 wages were. So that increase would be applied equally across all of our groups. One of the concerns within our groups is both of our groups and I share is just making sure that the amount is as stable as possible over these 2 years until we come to understand it better over time and potential continuation of it. So that we don't want people making a financial decision that might not be in their best interest in the long run with these funds. Potentially that it's I don't know, just that they understand how much it is. It's stable for the 2 years, and then we'll see what happens when we come to the next session. So we are very excited. Our people are very excited, and I guess thank you, and I'll take any questions.
Thank you. Members, do you have any questions for Carson City School District? You do have the plan in your backup documents. Any questions? Not seeing any questions here in Carson City. And Las Vegas, do you have any questions for Carson City School District? I am not seeing any. Wow, you get off easy. That is great. So we will take a vote at the end after all the school districts.
Yep.
Okay? Thank you so much. With that, we will close the Carson City and move on to E2, which is Churchill County School District. Do we have a representative for Churchill County? Okay, not seeing anyone. We will come back before we finish up E and see if Churchill County arrives. We will move on to E4, Douglas County School District. Why did they leave? Douglas County stepped out. They are on their way back. We will go to E5, the Eureka County School District. Okay. Well, I did make the statement that the school districts were stuck with us.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I thought I was going to have more time to prepare here. Madam Chair, members of the committee, thank you very much for allowing me to be here today. My name is Tate Else. I'm the superintendent of schools for Eureka County School District. And after the passage of SB 231, my board of trustees and I worked we tried to expedite negotiations as quickly as we possibly could to ensure that we could get the benefit for our employees with these funds. As we are a hold harmless school district from the passage of SB 543, we did it a little bit different than some of the other school districts may have. We kind of tried to back into the numbers to create a sustainable amount that we could afford as the district for our matching funds. So in the process of doing that, we really tried to keep the funds separate when we spoke about it with our bargaining units and the district funds as well as the matching funds over here. So we've created an MOU with each bargaining unit. I really want to thank my bargaining units. They were wonderful to work with in a very, very quick manner trying to get all of this done. So in short, we were able to offer a 2.75% increase from the district's pot of money throughout the biennium for this fiscal year as well as next year as well. And then with the approval of these funds, employees will get an additional 2.75%, so roughly 5.5% throughout the biennium for our employees, which is a pretty amazing opportunity. We have already, in my district, when we were talking about these things, it typically lands on one person that does all of this work. So I certainly have to thank Devaney Etchegary, who did all of this work, a lot of hours of work on this. And I really want to thank Yuri and James from LCB for helping us through many, many mistakes that we made throughout this process. So we have already been able to retroactively go back and pay. We have biweekly payrolls. So Devaney has been able to go through and retroactively pay. So our employees will get the retroactive pay for the district's portion of the raise actually on our payroll tomorrow. And we have a plan as soon as we get this money to go back and retroactively pay it so it's equitable for PERS. We want to ensure that each employee gets every hour, the increase to every hour that they've worked throughout this year. So that is our plan. Are there any questions?
Thank you so much. We do have the plan here before us. Members, do you have any questions for Eureka County on their plan as laid out? Assemblywoman Anderson.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for presenting the information and the very large information. But I just wanted to verify, this was negotiated or was this an MOU? Because you mentioned very specifically your board as well as your other leadership team. But I wanted to see how the employees were involved in the process.
Yes, so we did go through the negotiations with each bargaining unit, but rather than put anything in our negotiated agreement about the SB 231 funds, we did an additional MOU. So we have two new contracts for the biennium for each negotiated bargaining unit and an MOU with these funds.
Thank you. So the memorandum of understanding ends after the 2 years, is that correct? Or does it have an end date, or is it continual, keep on going, keep on fighting?
No, it ends. It's very specific to just these funds. And so yes, it would end after these 2 years. And it's contingent on us getting these funds.
Thank you so much for that clarification.
You bet. Thank you.
Thank you. Members, any other questions? Not seeing any other questions here in Carson City. Is there anyone in Las Vegas that has questions? Not seeing any there. Thank you so much for being here today, for completing the task as given and answering the questions. We appreciate you. We will go back to Douglas County. Good morning. And members, we found out that Churchill County had the wrong time. They are an hour to an hour and a half out before even getting to the building. So we are going to go ahead and defer them to our next meeting. Instead of waiting, we already have a long agenda. Good morning.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Adam Dedman, the Executive Director of Human Resources with Douglas County School District. I'd just like to apologize for missing earlier. We misunderstood and thought that all of E was approved. I apologize.
You thought you were off the hook, huh?
We did think we were off the hook. Thank you.
Sorry.
You want to introduce yourself?
Hello, my name is Jeannie Dwyer. I am the acting superintendent for Douglas County School District.
And Brian Rippett. In this role, I was the chief negotiator for DCPA in negotiations with the Douglas County School District.
And would the committee just like to hear an overview of our plan? Okay.
Yes, please.
So we've we've come to agreement with all of our bargaining groups. And all of our bargaining groups received an 11% raise this year, retroactive. And then next year, they're going to get a 4% raise. And so we were very careful in our process to keep the SB 231 money separate from the raises we were negotiating, because we wanted to ensure that those raises were on the district's budget and locked in moving forward. So our plan is to apply a 4.436 salary increase to all employees based on their new salary at 11% this year and based on 4% for next year. And so our interpretation of the bill was to increase raises that we had already provided. So I can talk more about how we calculated those. Are there any questions or any part I should address?
Thank you. We do have one question from Senator Canizero.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I just want to say thank you for, I think, understanding the intent of this bill. I think we had very lengthy hearings on this. The whole purpose was we knew that there may be raises, varying degrees in the different districts, but this was supposed to be money that was going to be in addition to that. So I applaud you for bringing that forward and for bringing it for all of the folks who are part of Douglas County. Your teachers, your support staff, school police, everybody who is included. I think this is exactly what we were intending to do, and so I appreciate you all working, and I'm happy to see that we will be giving raises to the folks who are doing the good work of educating our kids. Thank you.
Thank you. Assemblywoman Anderson.
Thank you, Chair, and I'm going to be asking a similar question again. So with the negotiated agreement, which very nice, was this also the 4.436%, excuse me, was that also negotiated, or was that part of an MOU? How are the employees involved in that discussion?
We developed a plan of what we felt we could afford with the SB 231 allocation. We shared that with our employee groups, but it wasn't a negotiable item for us because we wanted to be able to apply the same percentage for all the groups. And it's worth noting that we are planning to distribute this money to all of our groups with the exception of our site and district level administrators per our interpretation of the bill.
Any other questions? Not seeing any here in Carson City. Go ahead.
Would it be appropriate for me to ask a question? Okay.
Sure, go ahead and ask a question.
I already messed up once. We don't want to do it again. So we're anticipating that there could very well be some underspend at the end of fiscal year 25 through resignations or through staff reductions. And so in that event, what we would like to do is to just raise the percentage for everybody and distribute the rest of the money accordingly. So I don't know if this commission could give me some guidance on that today or if that's something we address later. What we've budgeted for is, I guess you would call it the largest, I don't know if it's worst case or best case, depending on how you look at it. If everybody who works for us now stays with us for 2 years and we fill every job, this is how much we can afford. But in the likely event that there's some underspend, we'd like to know how we go about that.
That is a wonderful question. The fact that you want to give people more money is very impressive. So I am going to ask Ms. Kaufman to actually answer that question for us.
Thank you, Madam Chair. For the record, Sarah Kaufman. With the provisions of Senate Bill 231, the school districts are allowed to come back multiple times. So if there are instances in your plan where there may need correction, you can come back to the Interim Finance Committee and seek a reappropriation for those. There's also a provision within Senate Bill 231 that provides that the school district shall provide a report at the end of the biennium that specifies what was actually spent on. So if there's just minor changes, say for example, vacancies or things where you needed to reallocate, that can also be addressed through that reporting requirement as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do you three have any other questions for us? All right, we'll go down south. Do any of our members have any questions for the representatives from Douglas County School District?
Madam Chair, I do.
Senator Neal.
So, thank you, Madam Chair. So just really quick, I'm super curious. So you're planning on if absorbing the vacancies in order to give you an increased rate, potentially an increase, a salary increase. What made you come to that? I'm just super curious because it sounds like you're operating in a very fair way by, number one, giving everyone the same increase. But I want to know how the vacancy absorption is intended to work.
One thing we wanted to mention is that we did.
Can I just get you to state your name again for the record? I know it's repetitive, but it helps with our record keeping.
Sorry, Adam Dedman, Douglas County School District. Thank you. We did discuss our allocation with the Teachers Association, for example, when we were discussing, when we were negotiating. So I think what you're asking is we're budgeting for vacancies right now. So, for example, right now we have several vacant positions that aren't filled. And when we projected this percentage, we projected it as though they were all going to be filled, which would be the worst case financial scenario, I guess you would say. I think in reality, we're anticipating that they won't all be filled, but we certainly hope they will be. So in a best case situation, we fill all of our positions tomorrow and they stay with us through the end of the next school year, but in anticipation that that's unlikely. Also, we have declining enrollment, so our general fund will be going down, which means our staffing allocation will probably go down in the next year. And even if that's one or two people, that would take away from the SB 231 allocation. And our commitment from day one has been to spend every dollar that we can out of that fund for our employees. And so that's what's really driven our plan.
Senator Neal, did you have a follow-up?
Yes, Madam Chair. So I mean, every time I listen to another county, I'm always filtering through a CCSD process. So your vacancies that are unfilled, if you have, because down here, right, different schools have different vacancies, but you're just doing it as a whole. Like if you have 200 vacant positions, you're just going to roll those 200 and then give that increase. It's not going to be like a ration based on, I guess, schools that may have higher or lower situations. It's just going to go to everyone. The vacancy spread will go to everyone. That's what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah, for the record, Brian Rippett. So as part of the negotiation process, the district presented their plan, and then we had discussions, and then there was an adjusted presentation. One of the things that I want to emphasize is there was amazing collaboration and a level of trust that has been built up between the association and the district to allow this to go forward. And the DCPA, the Teachers Association in Douglas County, trusted that the district would come up with a fair calculation on how much, and that percentage, you saw the decimal points moved a bit as they got more clarity on how many folks were in positions. We knew that, as Mr. Dedman stated, there might be money left over, and so we talked about how do we address that. And in some of our discussions, we agreed to look at it again in the spring of next year and make another allocation, and that was the clarification that we just got from the financial analyst that would be okay to do. So we've anticipated some of those things, and we intend to continue to work together. And I just want to say a special extra thank you to Majority Leader Canzaro for leading this for the employees, school employees in Nevada.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
You are welcome. Members, any other questions for Douglas County? Not seeing anyone else with their hand raised down south and seeing no one else with questions here, I thank you so much. Thank you for running back here. I apologize for that. And with that, we will move on to E6 on our agenda, and that is Lander County. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for the opportunity to be here. My name is Russ Klein. I'm the superintendent of Lander County, and I just want to express our appreciation to all of you for the monies that have been allocated and the ability to distribute this to our employees. In Lander County, we have taken yet a different approach, so not to keep you guys guessing. We have in our negotiated contract, one of the very first paragraphs we have is our objective is to attract and retain the highest quality employees possible for our students. And so in order to attract, we really have to get the low end salaries up. And in order to retain, we have to acknowledge those at the top end as well. So in Lander County, we chose to do a flat increase for all of the teachers. So the teachers at the bottom end, as a percentage, get more. The teachers at the high end get a little less. And so we are giving a $5,700 increase per teacher. We are coming with a partial request today. We have negotiated and settled with the certified. We're still in negotiations with the classified, so that is that portion we are waiting to come at a later point. But that's the approach we've taken, and the certified teachers have been very supportive in recognizing our need to get that entry-level wage up. So we will have our starting teachers at over $53,000 for Lander County, and we're very excited and again appreciative for what this money does for our teachers.
Assemblywoman Anderson does have a question for you, and then I think there'll be a few more.
So thank you very much for presenting that information. I love the fact that you want to make sure that the individuals working in your school district are going to stay in the school district. What was the process of the discussion with your employees, number one? And then number two, are you also planning on, actually, no, I can't ask that because you're still in negotiations. So when you're just speaking of the certified, what was the discussion with your employees? How were they part of this plan?
Yeah, Russ Klein for the record. And I'm going to answer that because it's been public conversation enough. If you take the average of all of our certified teachers and the average of all of our classified, it's literally a 2-to-1. And so what I did is took the $440,000 that we could qualify for, added our $440,000, it came out to be $880,000. So what we did is we ran for every $1,000 the teachers get, if the support staff were to get $500, it would be an equivalent percentage increase. And so that's how we allocated the money, dividing that $880,000 divided by it came out to be about $150,000 per $1,000 unit, if you will. And it came out to be 5.7 units. So that's how the certified came out to be the $5,700.
Thank you. And follow up if I may. So the math makes sense. Government teacher over here, not a math teacher, but still it does make sense in that realm. However, how were your employees part of the discussion? Was there negotiations? Was it an MOU, or was it just this is what you guys get?
No, it was full-on negotiations with the certified staff, and we submitted the signed negotiation agreement. Yeah.
Members, any other questions? Senator Canizero.
I think I might still be formulating the question in my head, so bear with me. So the way that I am looking at the documents that we have, this is still a salary increase for your folks with the 231 funds in addition to what they're getting with other district funds.
Yes. Unfortunately, in Lander County, on a budget item of $1.2 million, our health insurance was overspent by $700,000. So we had to take much of the increase in educational funding this year just to cover our losses in health insurance. But the district found that other $440,000 in order to draw down the matching $440 from SB 231. So the district is putting in the $440 in order to match the $440 we qualify for SB 231. Does that answer the question? Russ Klein, for the record.
Yeah,
sorry.
yes, it does. And I remember, I think, some of this discussion from when we had everyone come during session to talk to us about kind of what they foresaw for the next biennium in terms of funds and where any additional funds that might flow through the funding formula may go. So this is familiar to me from that. And I know that you were talking about, it sounds like you made a different decision in terms of sort of tagging your, what we'll sort of call support staff with teachers to make sure they were getting sort of similar increases, if I'm understanding that part. But this does cover both the support staff and the teachers?
We have only requested the amount for the teachers that we have the signed contract on now. We're currently in negotiations with the classified, but we have reserved that money that is still completely available for them, yes.
Okay, so this is just for part of your teachers?
This is, I'm sorry, Russ Klein, for the record, this is for all of our teachers.
Okay.
That's what we have negotiated and agreed. And the classified, our reading aids and all the others, that's what we're currently in negotiation for.
Okay, and this plan does not include them?
This request today does not include them, but we are only requesting the amount needed for the teachers.
Okay.
And I expect to be back to request the remainder for our classified.
Okay, thank you for that, and thank you, Madam Chair.
Can you tell me how many classified employees are not included in today's plan that you're presenting today? How many of those employees?
Russ Klein, for the record, how many classified are not included?
Yes, today you're requesting funding for your certified and your district support, but you said you're still in negotiation with classified employees, correct?
Correct. We have about 60, 65 teachers and about 65 classified. So, and then about 7 support staff in the district office. So this covers about 55%, but there are about 65 classified staff that we are still finishing negotiations with.
Awesome, thank you so much. Members, any other questions here in Carson City? Senator Carnicero.
Thank you, Madam Chair, for a second go around. I think we have also some numbers here that I don't think are the same as what you've stated today. So can you clarify for us how much you are asking for in the requests that you're bringing today? Because I want to make sure we have the right information. I will say that I do have some concerns that we're not seeing sort of a full plan here. But can you tell me just what's the amount that you're looking for with the request that you brought today?
Oh, that is a good question. I should have it right here. I think it was 590 of the 880.
Okay, I may have misheard you then, because I thought there was a different amount that you were asking for, but I think there's just some confusion over the way that this was requested and how it was separated out between.
Yeah, and again, Russ Klein, for the record, I apologize. We're doing a partial. We felt very strongly, and we had tremendous support from the certified teachers. We wanted to get this into their hands as soon as we could. If it's approved today, this will be on their December 25th paycheck.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Not seeing any other questions here in Carson City. Is there anyone with questions down in Las Vegas? Not seeing any. All right. I thank you so much for the presentation.
Thank you.
And we'll move on to E7, which is Lyon County.
Good morning. My name is Wayne Workman. I have the privilege of serving as the superintendent for the Lyon County School District. I have beside me our board president, Mr. Phil Cooey. I also have our two backup dancers, known as our finance officers, Mr. Harmon Baines and Kyle Rodriguez, should we need help with answering any specific questions. We are extremely grateful for the opportunity to present our plan to the IFC this morning. And also would like to explain to you that we were able to successfully complete negotiations with both our certified group, the LCEA, as well as our classified group, the LCCSEA, back in the summer. We were able to tentatively agree, and you can see that those agreements were also included language regarding this SB 231 funding, for which we are extremely grateful. We were able to successfully negotiate that with both of those bargaining groups. We fully believe in the Lyon County School District, the importance of all of our educators, and we call all of our employees educators, both teachers and classified individuals. They serve critical needs for our students and also for our staff members. And so as you can see in our plan, we are requesting the entire $6,228,213 from you today. You can also see that as part of our negotiations, outside of this SB 231 funding, we were able to negotiate approximately a 14.5% cost of living increase over the 2 years with both of our unions. Specifically for our certified group, that amounts to 12% this year and 2.5% next year. And for our classified group, it amounts to 10% this year and 4.5% next year. And so when all is said and done, it's at that 14.5%. And then we were also able to cover their portion of the PERS as part of that negotiation process as well. With that, and with being able to successfully negotiate that, we then brought forward a couple of different plans to our Board of Trustees for them to consider and ultimately approve. One plan would be around a % increase. The other plan was around a flat rate increase. Again, knowing the importance of all of our educators, our Board of Trustees chose to approve the flat rate increase for presentation to you today. And so with that, what that essentially means is that in addition to that 14.5% plus the PERS increase, we would be asking for each employee, each FTE, to receive an estimated, the eligible FTEs in our school districts is approximately 954. And so I'm basing this number on that approximate FTE of 954. But that would equate to approximately a $6,534 increase for each of the FTEs over the next 18 months. So our intention is to, with approval, we would put this in place beginning January 1, and over the 18 months disperse that $6,228,213 to all of those eligible FTEs, which would equate to approximately $363 per month for every one of those employees. And so just to give you a rough estimate of what that might look like, a certified teacher in our school district with 9 years of experience sitting on the salary scale of a bachelor's plus 32 would receive approximately a 5% increase to, in addition to the 14.5%. And to be very specific, it's 4.9 something percent, but rounding up approximately 5%. And then a bus driver with the same experience, 9 years, would receive approximately a 7% increase to their salary with that flat rate. And so I will also mention that our negotiations with the certified group also included NSCEA Director Brian Lee. And that group, as I mentioned, in addition to our classified group, have all signed off on the language we put in there for SB 231 negotiations as well. And we are happy to take any questions you may have for us.
Thank you. I know that we have a few questions. We'll start with Assemblywoman Anderson.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for explaining about the negotiated agreement and what all happened, because when I was looking at it on in our documents under Article 14, where I appreciate the fact you added that in there and exactly when it ends and everything. However, during your presentation, you said that how that would be given was up to the school board trustees, and that is not clear in the contract. And so I'm a little bit confused. I just want to make sure I've got this correct, is that you came forward to the Board of Trustees, gave them the two options of either a percentage or a flat rate, and the school board trustees decided upon the flat rate for both bargaining units, and was that ever a discussion amongst the bargaining units, or was that a decision of the school board trustees?
That was the decision of the school board of trustees after negotiating the language.
So the language that is present in front of us does not make that very clear that that decision would be made at the Board of Trustees level to do either the flat rate or the percentage, if I'm understanding your answer correctly. Am I understanding that correctly?
Well, I apologize. I don't know what you're understanding versus what I'm understanding. The language that is negotiated is negotiated. And so that sits in there in both negotiated agreements. The language is exactly the same in both negotiated agreements for the certified and classified.
Okay, so if I may ask a follow-up then. So if I'm looking at B under, again, Article 14B, where you state any awarded funds will be applied to salary and benefits as permitted by law, it appears then from that one sentence that what has happened is that decision was made by the Board of Trustees to do that as a flat rate versus a percentage. And that was never part of the negotiated process. That's, I guess, where my confusion's coming from.
Well, I think that's where my confusion is coming from as well, because that language was negotiated. So that language was negotiated and accepted, ratified by the union, and then by our Board of Trustees in a public meeting.
So and thank you for making that clarification. So with that, there was never any discussion of what that process would be or what the choices would be amongst the trustees?
No, because those agreements were ratified before any of the information came regarding the amounts that would be awarded and how they would be awarded, or any guidance from LCB or NDE.
Okay, and again, thank you for the time, Chair. So I'm just making sure I'm understanding this correctly, that this was done in a what-if situation, if this goes through, and then since it was not clear exactly what could be utilized, was the decision made from the school district's leadership point of view.
And from the unions, as they signed off on the negotiated agreements.
Okay, thank you so much for that clarification.
Thank you.
Members, questions? Senator Canizaro.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I want to make sure I'm understanding this one correctly. The way I understand it is that this is being proposed as sort of just a static payment each month to each employee.
Correct.
Is that right?
Correct.
So this is not like an additional increase on a salary, it's just you've structured it like a bonus payment.
It's very much an increase to their salary. They're receiving an additional $6,534 is estimated.
Right. I mean, yes, to the extent that they are going to be making more money, yes, but it's not in the form of like a salary increase. You're just sort of across the board giving bonuses to the employees.
Well, it goes into their salary. It all counts as salary. Is that what you're asking?
Well, by way of an example, we have, obviously everything goes into their salary because they're going to be taking that part home. But the way that it looks as though you've structured this, and I'm trying to understand, because we have had a number of other school districts come forward today that have said, okay, well, we're going to do this percentage of an increase. We gave raises of this much. We are now going to, with the 231 funds, give a salary increase of this much for these particular bargaining units or for these groups of employees. Your plan is different than the ones that we have. And as I'm looking at the documents that were submitted, that this was just calculated as for every employee in the district is going to just get a sort of a lump sum.
Correct. That is correct.
As opposed to like a percentage of increase to their salary. And so I guess that's where I'm struggling a little bit, because this is very different than what we have seen in the other districts and different than what I think was sort of intended in the bill.
Wayne Workman, for the record, thank you for that. Again, I can't speak to intent. I can merely speak to the fact that we value every single one of our educators in the Lyon County School District. This disbursement is consistent with the manner in which we also provided critical labor incentives with ESSER ARP funding during the course of COVID, where we were able to provide flat rate amounts to our employees to make up for extra expenses that they would incur during that time. And so the Lyon County School District does have a history of doing this and has successfully done it in the past. The only difference really is that each individual employee may have a bit of a different quote-unquote percentage. And so that's why I gave you examples of what those percentages may look like depending on the employee status. Does that help?
I understand, I guess I understand what you are doing. I am just a little perplexed over how it came out to, well, we're just going to give a flat rate to every employee, much like you would an incentive or a support payment, when this was sort of intended, and it feels like everyone else kind of did it the same way, to do like a salary increase, if that makes sense.
No, I understand what you're saying with the salary increase. However, we value all of our educators exactly the same in the Lyon County School District. We need each and every one of them just as much as we do our certified staff. We need our classified staff as well.
Sure.
And so
and
it was...
I think we agree on that point. That's why I think it's tough when we see, not yours, but other plans that aren't, that sort of don't encompass all of the employees, because was what was intended with these funds, right, was to provide a way to give some additional money in the form of raises to all of the employees, not just teachers, not just a particular set of support staff. And that's sort of the history of how that bill came about and why it includes and attempts to encompass everyone who is in our schools providing that education, whether they're in a support form or a teacher directly in a classroom, irrespective of whether they fall into one of those few categories, that there would still be a raise associated with it. And so I think like we agree on that, right, that everybody is very valued, and I appreciate that you have included everyone in yours. This is just a little bit of a different way of allocating the money, and I'm not sure, at least in my perspective, that this was kind of how this was intended, not to be sort of an incentive payment, but rather to be, here's some additional money that can be now utilized for across-the-board salary increases. So,
Thank you for that. Wayne Workman for the record. We obviously did clear this with our legal counsel, and I would hope that LCB would have flagged that for us if this was not in compliance with SB 231. But our understanding is that this plan is in complete compliance with SB 231.
Senator Nguyen, did you have a question?
I do. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. I guess my question is obviously you had the opportunity to see what we approved in the October IFC meeting with regards to Humboldt County, and you've obviously had the opportunity, I'm assuming, to review every single other county's recommendation. And I'm just curious why, in particular, you felt you were going to go out on your own and do your own interpretation of 231. I know you indicated that you didn't understand the legislative intent, but it seems like everyone else understood the legislative intent. So I'm wondering how this unique process that you came up with and submitted, how come it differs so greatly from everyone else's? So I guess that's my first question. And then, Chair, if I can, I have one follow-up question.
Of course.
Wayne Workman for the record. You'll remember I mentioned that we did submit 2 plans to our Board of Trustees for approval, and after much deliberation, our Board of Trustees believed that this would be the most fair manner in which to honor every single educator in the Lyon County School District. And so that would be the reason why it's not just a flat percentage like all other school districts have presented. I was aware of Humboldt County's presentation. Matter of fact, Superintendent Jensen and I are excellent friends, and we've both shared with each other what our plan has been from the beginning. And I can't speak to what other school districts are doing. I can only speak to what the Lyon County School District is doing in honoring all employees.
Thank you. Again, I see this more as a bonus structure, and I have some concerns. You had indicated, how does this play into, you said it was a part of their salary. So how does that work into, is this a salary for purposes of PERS, or is this treated as a one-time bonus?
This will be treated, I'm going to call on my backup dancers, just to make sure I'm not misspeaking, but my understanding is that it will be PERS eligible.
Kyle Rodriguez, Lyon County School District for the record. This will be included in PERS, so it is spread through the 18 months that this will be eligible. So it is in salary in that respect.
And if I may, Wayne Workman for the record, we believe that this will actually be more transparent to our employees because there will be a separate item on their check that shows the exact amount each month that they are being paid. In addition, as opposed to a percent increase where the employee's having to guess or do some math and try and calculate, is the district ripping me off, or is this really a 4% raise or 5% raise? So we consider this more transparent and better for all of our employees so that they can understand exactly what they're getting.
I'm sorry, so it's not a part of the salary?
It is a part of the salary. So we are going to run this on a supplemental pay run, so it is clear and concise for requesting. If I misspoke, I apologize. It is just going to be on its own separate paycheck for requesting purposes.
I'm sorry, it sounds like a bonus to me, but I'll let you move on to other question askers.
Thank you. Assemblyman Cohen.
So maybe help me understand a little bit better. I mean, we just heard from Lander County, who I wrote down quotes, a $5,700 flat bonus, where the teachers have been there for longer are getting a less percentage. The teachers who have been there shorter are getting a higher percentage. How is that any different? I'm not trying to throw Lander under their bus too, but to me, they're under the same bus that Lyon County is. I mean, it slid by with Lander. No one said a word on them calling it a bonus and giving their people bonuses. but now we're slamming my county, Lyon County, for doing the exact same thing that Lander County did. So maybe we need to slam Lander here a little bit too. I don't know, but I don't see the difference there.
Wayne Workman for the record. I don't know if that was a question, but I don't recommend slamming Lander. But with that, we do believe that this is a fair and consistent manner in which we can apply this to SB 231 as well as our legal counsel does, and certainly our Board of Trustees does as well. I would invite more feedback from LCB or IFC when crafting language in the future so that we can make sure that this goes exactly how you envision it going. It's tough to read minds in how exactly some of you had envisioned that laying out. Thank you.
Thank you. Assemblywoman Bacchus.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I have two questions. And with my first question, they're kind of two different areas. My first question was, Superintendent, you had indicated that the SB 231 had been negotiated, and I was listening during public comment where the ESA union representative here kind of indicated that maybe this wasn't, and that it was looking like a bonus or a salary raise. So I'm trying to understand that, and then I was looking at the support materials, and it looks like that the two agreements for the upcoming fiscal year between the support professionals and the teachers are negotiated agreements. I get that. And then it looks like from the materials that there was a memorandum that went to the Board of Trustees for the SB 231. And so I just want to make sure we're being clear. Was specifically the SB 231 monies of that lump sum that would be going to everyone actually negotiated? And you said there were two agreements or two things that were put before the Board of Trustees. Were both of those negotiated with the support professionals and the teachers?
Wayne Workman for the record. So to answer your question, we submit board memos on every single agenda item to our Board of Trustees so that they have a clear picture and a full story of what is being presented to them. As I mentioned before, negotiations took place before any guidance came out on SB 231, including the total amounts that would be allocated. So what was negotiated is the language in both the certified and the classified negotiated agreement. That language is exactly what was negotiated. It then was the presentation to our Board of Trustees that showed the two different manners in which the money could be allocated, both the percent increase or the flat rate increase, and that was what was presented to our Board of Trustees. I hope that answers your question. Thank you.
It does. I thank you for clarifying that that was not negotiated. Those were just the options presented. With respect to, you gave some great examples to show the percent increase as exemplars for teachers of a certain year compared to a bus driver with 9 year to show a percent increase. What would a percent increase in salary for an educational professional that is like in their early career? I saw in public comment someone said they usually start at $15 an hour. So what would that increase look like?
That is an excellent question. And sorry, Wayne Workman, Superintendent of Lyon County School District for the record. That is an excellent question. I cannot pull that out of the top of my head, and even my incredible finance officer here cannot give you an exact number. But what you can expect is that the lower the salary, the higher the rate of percentage increase will be. You can surmise that for every single employee in the school district. I hope that helps.
Thank you.
Members, any other questions for Lyon County? And thank you for the clarification of the negotiation. I know that in public comment, the representative from the union said that this was not negotiated with them, that the bonus, that it looks like a bonus, came as a surprise. And when you spoke, you said originally that it had been negotiated, but you've clarified that This part, that would be the bonus, in the separate check was not negotiated with the union, but the 14% in the PERS increase, that was negotiated with the union, correct?
Wayne Workman for the record, absolutely. Everything that is in the negotiated agreement is what was bargained with the unions, and those were successful negotiations, all ratified by each of the respective associations and by our Board of Trustees.
Thank you, members. Any other questions for Lyon County? Not seeing any here. Anyone else in Las Vegas with a question? All right. I think you're off the hook. Thank you so much for your presentation. As I said, we will take a vote on all the districts at the end.
Thank you.
Thank you. And that takes us to E8, which is Nye County.
Good afternoon by a few seconds, Chair. Joe Gent from Nye County School District. I'm the superintendent, and I brought our Chief Operations Officer, Ray Ritchie, with us today. And just to head you off at the pass, it was negotiated with both our unions, support staff, and our teachers. It's an increase, and I'll go ahead and let Mr. Ritchie address specifics.
Thank you for that.
Thank you. Ritchie is spelled R-I-T-C-H-I-E for the record. We're grateful for the $4.1 million that we did receive from SB 231. We did calculate it, and we'll be giving our classified and our certified employees this year a 3.9% increase above and beyond what we already gave them. We gave our classified and our certified a 12% increase with a reduction in the 1.875% for PERS this year already. Next year, the district will be also paying a 10% increase to our classified and certified employees. And then next year, with the money that was given through SB 231, they will get an additional 3.56% on their salary schedule. Our focus was our teachers and our support staff to show how much we appreciate them and all the hard work they do. Is there any questions?
Thank you so much. You answered Assemblywoman Anderson's questions in your opening statement, so she has none. Members, any questions here in Carson City for Nye County? Not seeing anyone here. Is there anyone in Las Vegas that has a question for the Nye County presenters? All right, not seeing any. I thank you so much for the presentation.
Thank you.
And that brings us up to the last school district for presentation for today, and that will be E9, which is White Pine County.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, members of the committee. My name is Adam Young, Superintendent of the White Pine County School District. Greetings from the northeast part of the state. It's a little chillier up there than it is here today, but happy to be here with you and appreciate very much this opportunity to share the work that our folks have done collaborating to present and prepare this proposal. So our negotiations with our two bargaining units concluded in late June of 2023, a few months ago, just shortly after the legislative session. We negotiated many things, as we always do, but specific to salary, we negotiated a 10% increase in 2024 for both teachers and support staff, and then an additional 5% increase in 2025 for teachers and support staff. And as has been intimated a couple of times, that was prior to any real clear guidance on Senate Bill 231. So we came back to the table in late August or early September in order to have discussions about how we wanted to distribute that money. And so through the course of that process and lots of discussion and interaction back and forth, we settled on a proposal that is different than some of the ones that have been discussed today. And essentially what we did is we took the number of our teachers and the numbers of our support staff, and then we separated, divided basically our allocation of approximately $990,000 by the numbers of teachers we had and the numbers of support staff we had. That basically created a separate pot of funds for both of those employees. And then we kind of backed our way into what the maximum percentage of increase could be to apply to the salary schedules of those two bargaining units. And so the way that that worked out then is that in addition to the 10 and the 5 that I already discussed, our teachers will receive an additional 6% this year and an additional 1% next year. And our support staff will receive an additional 8.5% this year, an additional 3.5% next year. So all told, our teachers will have increases over this biennium of 22%, and our support staff will have increases of 27%. And again, just to kind of anticipating what some of the questions would be, the reason that we chose that model, that's actually not the model that we went to the bargaining table with as the school district. But in talking with our organizations, that is the one that they chose collaboratively, even though our teachers kind of acknowledged that would mean greater percentage increases for support staff than it did for teachers. They were supportive of that model because, as again has been noted today, some of our lower paid employees, they struggle. And so we wanted to approach it in that way, fully supported the input that our bargaining units gave us in those suggestions. And those ideas were ratified through a memorandum of understanding. And that's what we come with you to present today.
Thank you so much. Members, any questions for White Pine County? And I have Assemblywoman Anderson who has a question for you.
It's not really a question. I just wanted to comment about how much I appreciate you working with the unions and figuring out the models that's best for all the employees. I don't think there's any question of any of our minds that our superintendents as well as our board of trustees and almost all of our school districts truly care about their employees. And so I wanted to say that how much I appreciated your openness and the discussion, and also about how the model that was chosen was from the bargaining units. So thank you so much for that. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Members, any other questions or comments? Not seeing any from anyone here in Carson City. Is there anyone in Las Vegas that has a question or comment for White Pine County? All right. Not seeing any. I thank you so much for the presentation and for the work that went into the document that we have before us today.
Thank you.
All right, members, we've heard presentations from almost all of the districts that were included in E1 today. As we said at the beginning of this section, that we were going to defer Clark County because they did not present a full plan that included to provide salary increases for teachers and education support professionals. Churchill County was unable to be here today, so we are going to defer them as well. And in the discussion with Lander County, it was presented in the discussion that they too do not have a complete plan, much like Clark County. So to be consistent with what we did with Clark County, we will defer Lander County to a future IFC meeting once they have all of that completed. And they can come back to this body, and we'll be more than happy to move forward with that. But I feel that we as a body need to be consistent in the work that we do. So the first motion I am going to ask for is a motion to defer E2, E3, and E6 to a future IFC meeting to bring back a full plan.
So moved, Madam Chair.
Backus, second.
I have a motion from Senator Canizero and a second from Assemblywoman Backus. Any discussion on the motion? Not seeing any here in Carson City. Is there any discussion in Las Vegas? Not seeing any there. All in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries. And then for item E1, E4, E5, E8, and E9, hearing the presentations that were presented today in the conversation, I will accept a motion to approve E1, 4, 5, 8, and 9.
So moved, Madam Chair.
Backus, second.
I have a motion from Senator Canizero and a second from Assemblywoman Backus. Any discussion on the motion? Not seeing any. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? And the motion carries. And that leaves item E7, Lyon County, which had a lot of discussion. So before taking a vote or motion on that, I would like to have a discussion as how we proceed with that. It seems that a number of members feel that the bonus does not in line with the intent of the legislation, and there may be a difference of opinion, and I'd like to get that on the record before we move forward on E7. Senator Ganser.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I appreciate the robust discussion we have, and the term bonus keeps being used, but it's salary because it's PERS eligible, and so I don't know how that entered the equation, but if you're giving someone a bonus, it's not necessarily PERS eligible. So to me, they're choosing to use a fixed amount instead of a percentage. Thus, the percentage would vary depending upon what your salary already is, but it's still salary. And I think they were trying to make an effort to be more transparent, and that's why they were making it either a separate check or a line item. I think I heard both, but they're separating it out. I think because recognizing the expectation that they want to increase the salary, but that there's a limit on funds as far as the duration, so that it will not automatically continue unless this body decides to continue it after or at the end of this session into next session or the next the next biennium. So to me, the language bonus versus salary, they are different, and salary is something that is PERS eligible, and I think they were able to make that very clear on the record. Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Titus.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I, too, concur with Senator Gansert's observation and also really want to focus on the component of transparency here. I think given the instructions or lack thereof for what to do with money and how to perform and with their intent and using all the resources that they had to help them do this particular design, discussing it with their unions, and employees associations, I think the transparency is the key, and the employees will understand exactly what they're getting. And again, the PERS eligibility, I think, is a huge component to this. So I am not in favor of deferring it now. I think it's important that we support, we've asked these school superintendents to take this money and then come up with these plans for us. And then we sat here for a long time criticizing what they then decided to do with this. And so I can't begin to share my frustration with this process. And I support what Lyon County has done. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Canizero.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think for me, the difficulty is that I get that it's take-home pay, so it's a salary in that regard, but it's also a separate line item, and it's also sort of being offered as an incentive payment, or being, I guess, equated to an incentive payment. And that, to me, I think is the tough part, because what we were trying to do with Senate Bill 231, which there was plenty of testimony in this committee, before the members of this committee, both on the Assembly side and on the Senate side, was to provide an additional pot of money for salary increases, for cost of living, and that it was supposed to be comprehensive in that fashion, and not sort of this separate payment. That's where I'm having some heartburn over this, because in as much as we are calling it a salary, it also is being reflected on a paycheck separately. It is also being referred to as akin to an incentive payment. It is different for every employee. It's the same amount, but different percentage for every employee. And then we also heard that there may be concerns over whether or not this particular portion, not the actual raises that were given by the district, which we included as sort of a requirement on the 231 funds, was that we wanted to see increases for employees, but that there, I think, is some confusion over whether this was a plan that was approved or not approved by the employees who are affected by it. And so I had endeavored that with this bill there would be both the ability and the resources to push the conversation, because we heard from so many education folks, people who are educating our kids, that they needed raises, and that for such a long time, like, that was hard to come by. There wasn't the money to do it. There was not this idea that it should be done. And so that was the whole purpose of this particular bill, was to say that because there's more money going into education, and I'm sorry that I'm sort of going on and on about this, but it's frustrating, I think, when the intent is that we are going to be providing salary increases to employees who we value, support staff, teachers, everyone who helps in that whole chain of providing education alike. That the idea is we can start to build salaries that are competitive, that bring good people to the classrooms and to our schools, and that give them a pathway to do this long term. If we continue to just take money and put it into small bonus looking payments and not build it into their salaries, I don't know that we're creating a system where we have education personnel who want to continue to come and do this job, because maybe for 18 months they get a small payment, but this is not part of a salary in the way that I think we were designing these funds to be used. And so that is just sort of my frustration and my consternation. I have to say, I do appreciate the folks from Lyon County being here to talk to us about this plan and what they have come up with. And I appreciate my colleagues' comments that the districts kind of have been asked to come with a plan. I think the reason for us saying we want you to bring a plan so that we can vet it and we can say, yes, this is how we want to do it, was, one, to make sure that that was what we were doing. We were building a place where we are investing in education personnel, and also taking into consideration that districts across the state are very differently situated depending on the student populations that they serve, the number of students, the professionals that they employ. And so we wanted to be able to give some flexibility for that, but not flexibility such that we're not doing what we were intending to do, which was to help to build a place where we are paying educational personnel what they deserve. And to me, this doesn't seem to sort of fit into what it is that we're trying to do. We're not trying to just give bonus payments. We could have done a bill that said for every person who was involved in the education system in the state of Nevada, here's a bonus payment. But that's not what this was designed to do. That was not the purpose of this bill. And so for me, it's frustrating because I get that somehow we have found under the letter of the law, there is a legal way to potentially do this, but this committee also has the discretion to approve or not approve things that come before it. And for me, this kind of frustrates what the whole goal was. And so I'm just having some consternation over this as a plan, and I don't mean to say that to demean the work, or certainly that these folks are not deserving of the money. That I don't think is something that I think anyone on this committee doesn't agree with. I just, as a plan, this one, I have some serious concerns over. And I'm gonna stop talking now because I've gone on way too long.
Assemblywoman Anderson.
Thank you. And I share those same concerns, as you already know. And I really do appreciate both the comments made during the presentation, that it was very much caring about every employee. And I think that's very clear in your district that you do. I'm just concerned about how the compensation was decided upon and the role of the bargaining agents in that decision-making process. It does feel like a bonus. And as an individual who has received those bonuses, that means that they can sometimes be taken away. That is not the intent of the law. That is not the intent or anything lined out in this contract. I want to make sure that that's clear, that I see that. However, I'm just not comfortable with it at this time, and I wish that there was a deeper discussion between the school district and their bargaining agents. I feel that the language that's here is just not as clear as it should be. But again, I want to make sure it's clear. I do see that you care about your employees, and I see that you care about your school district. I'm just not comfortable approving it at this time.
Assemblyman O'Neill.
Thank you, Chair. I appreciate it. I agree with Senator Gansert, Senator Titus. I think we've gotten locked in for some reason on this word bonus. We could probably find some other words to use. It's a secondary payment. I'm impressed with what Lyon County has done. We've talked about treating everybody equally. They've done that. They've had their plan. Their labor unions have voted on this and agreed to it. Saying that it's a bonus and it can be taken away, well, it's in the contract, so it can't be taken away from them. I think it's more the word of bonus than the actual plan that they've done. You know, we can all take different roads to get to Carson City, whether it's 580, 395, 50, but you still end up in Carson City if you so desire. To me, that is what Lyon County has done here. They've just taken a different path to treat their employees. Their employees are appreciative. Their employees have accepted it. It's part of PERS, so it's not this outside agreement and payment. So I'm in supportive of their actions, and when the motion comes forward, if it does, I'll be voting in favor in support of Lyon County. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, and I am going to go to Speaker Yeager next, but I just wanted to clarify one thing that I believe he said on the record, that the actual contract that they have was negotiated with a 14% raise, but the money from SB 231 was presented to the trustees. There were two different plans, and the trustees decided how they were going to proceed with that. So I believe that's what I heard on the record. So just a clip. Speaker Yeager.
Thank you, Madam Chair. You know, we've been at this for quite a while this morning, particularly on Lyon County, into this afternoon. I'm still not really clear what the plan is, whether it's salary, whether it's a bonus, whether it's in the base pay, whether an employee would say this is my salary and include that amount. The PERS angle is interesting. We have folks in the room here on the union side that seem to disagree with the representations that were made. Frankly, I think the best thing to do in the motion that I would make at this point is to defer consideration of this for us to get some more information. I don't know that we're going to resolve that today, but I sense from the committee that some feel very strongly that this should be approved. Some feel strongly that it should be denied. And I think the best thing to do is to defer it like we did with E2, E3, and E6 to give our committee time to get additional information. We can direct our staff to get additional information, have conversations we need to have to make sure that we're fully informed because, you know, if in fact this is a bonus and doesn't meet with the intent of SB 231, I would not want to approve that today because we were very clear that this was to be base salary increases, not bonuses. And so I don't feel I have enough information today to be able to support this, so I would move to defer.
Thank you. So we currently have a motion to defer for more information. Do I have a second on the motion? I have a second from Senator Canizero. Any discussion on the motion? Senator Titus and Senator Gocochea.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I will be a no on that motion. I think it's almost, well, there's some terms I want to use, but I'm not going to put them on the record. But I would tell you that we're harming the very people that we sit up here and say we want to protect, which is the personnel of the school districts and helping everybody. And to defer this to the next IFC when I feel that their plan is legitimate and out there. And if you didn't understand what they presented, I'm sorry, but I thought it was well presented. And I will be a no on that motion to defer. Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Gocochea.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I also will be opposing it. It was negotiated. I do think it fits under the terms of 231. And again, there is an end to 231, and so, yeah, we can call it a base increase, but technically it's not because there is an end to it. So, and again, their unions did negotiate it. So, I think again, it's Christmas time. Let's not defer it. Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Gansert.
Thank you, Madam Chair. In reviewing the material, I think that we've caused the confusion. I think Lyon County was pretty clear, and I was just speaking with fiscal staff about the other agreements, and so these were signed agreements. So they are clearly signed in our documents, but the other agreements don't have a continuation either. So all the 231 money expires at the end of this biennium. The dollars that are allocated per that bill do not continue, and I was thinking maybe that's part of what the confusion is, the way that this was outlined by the county. So maybe they have to come, I'm going to vote against this, but maybe they have to come back next time, but I don't know how they can resolve it in that they already have agreements with their unions, and in an effort to be transparent, I think it's made it a little bit more confusing because for all of the unions, for all of the counties, it's going to be a separate amount that expires at the end of the biennium. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other comments? Assemblyman O'Neill.
Thank you, Chair. Senator Gocochea, his closing statement sort of took my statement. You know, we're going into the holiday season, Christmas time. The employees of Lyon County knew this was going to be heard today. I've got a funny feeling, having been a state employee, I would have brought this into my accounting on what I can and can't spend, and deferring it until February, I think it's going to cause an undue hardship. I know they'll still end up with the money. It'll be allocated. I think we'll agree. I'm in support, or will be voting no. I'm in support of the employees and the plan that Lyon County had, as I said earlier. So I will be a no. And thank you, Chair, for the time.
Thank you. Assemblyman Hafen.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I appreciate it. I did have a question on the motion, if I may.
Go ahead.
Thank you. If we defer this is the Lyon County one, would that delay any payments received to the teachers or support staff?
I believe that your question is, will the teachers get paid? They will get paid whatever was negotiated in their union contracts. However, the money coming from SB 231, they would not get until it passes this body. Two separate issues.
And that's where my question is coming from, Madam Chair. Is they have the separate line items, and so my concern is that yes, they'll get their raises under the first line item, but under the second line item, which is the SB 231, if this is delayed, that those pay increases would not be given to them before the holiday.
Correct. Is there anyone else with any comments or questions in Las Vegas? It doesn't seem to be anyone else with a comment or question here in Carson City. And if you're raising your hand, I cannot see you, so just click your mic.
Madam Chair, this is Assemblywoman Backus. I just wanted to add, so there's no confusion with respect to the request Lyon County was making in their materials. They weren't seeking these funds until 2024.
Thank you for the clarification. All right, seeing no other comments, we have a first motion and it's been seconded. All in favor of the motion to defer Lyon County to get more information for this body to feel comfortable to vote in favor of or deny. All in favor, please say aye. And those opposed? If those in opposition can raise their hands. We have in opposition Senator Titus, Senator Gokachia, Senator Gansert, Assemblyman Cohen, Assemblywoman Dickman, Assemblyman O'Neill. Down south, is there any nays? I cannot. Assemblyman Hafen. And I apologize. All right, that motion does pass. We will defer that one till a future meeting and have more discussion, bring it back so that we can go ahead and pass it.
Chair?
Yes.
I'm sorry, but I was for the motion.
Okay, I just needed those.
Okay, thank you.
I said Cohen.
Yeah,
Koenig.
Assemblywoman Cohen
Okay.
instead of Assemblyman Koenig.
Yes, sorry. All right, well, that ends item E, and I thank all the school districts for being here today, for making the presentations, and for those that are deferred, I look forward to seeing you at a meeting in our near future, and I wish you all happy holidays. And with that, we will move on to the next item on our agenda, which is item F. And F1 would be the Office of the Attorney General.
Good afternoon, members of the committee. Teresa Benitez Thompson, Chief of Staff to Attorney General Ford. Thank you very much for hearing this item today, F1. It is a request to support a special counsel position and associated cost. The position was approved unanimously yesterday at the Board of Examiners, so we're here to you today to request funds from the IFC contingency account to support this. Just to give some quick background on this, when SB 135 passed in the 2019 session, our office decided to watch the lay of the land at that time and did not request additional staff. In the subsequent budget building process in the last biennium, we realized that we did need dedicated staff to work with the Division of Human Resources Management, specifically on legal matters related to labor relations. We don't have dedicated staff to do that right now. We pull deputy attorney generals from our Division of Government and Natural Resources unit, and we have them assigned and working on it, but we've really come to the point with the complexity of the matters and the conversations and actions that are happening where that makes the most sense to put into place a special counsel position. And we will answer any questions that you have.
Thank you. I believe we do have a few questions, and I thank you for the presentation. Assemblyman Yeager.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. Former Assemblywoman Benitez Thompson, good to see you. I'm sorry I could not be up there in person. Got a chance to look at the request. Just had a question about the job responsibilities and the workload that led the Attorney General's office to determine a new special counsel position would be appropriate in lieu of other levels of positions, such as a Deputy Attorney General or a Senior Deputy Attorney General.
Thank you very much for the question. To Assemblyman Yeager, Teresa Benitez Thompson, Chief of Staff, to Attorney General Ford for the response. So that was something that we contemplated. Right now, we have a Deputy Attorney General position that is vacant, that's been vacant since September, advertising for a DAG specific to labor relations work. We have received 0 applications for that. We have had DAG advertisements within that unit out there that are not related to labor relations, and we have received applications. The complexity of this work really does require a senior attorney, and we really do need someone in the office who has labor relations experience. And we know in order to be able to recruit and fill that position, it's going to have to be that special counsel level. The other special counsels, we only have 3 others in our office. We have 2 at the Colorado River Commission and 1 with the Public Works Board on construction, highly specialized areas of law with lots of complexities, and we see this in that same vein.
Thank you. Any follow-up?
I don't have any follow-up, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Okay, members, any other questions? Assemblyman O'Neill?
Thank you, Chair. I appreciate the time. Ms. Thompson, Benitez Thompson, I just need clarification. The other special counsels, is their salary lower or the same as what you're requesting here?
To Assemblyman O'Neill, Teresa Benitez Thompson for the question. Thank you so much. So the salary is a salary that's set by the pay bill, Assembly Bill 522. So it's in there in statute. That is the rate.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Are there any members in Las Vegas that have any questions for Ms. Benitez Thompson on this item? Not seeing any other questions. As you move forward, if we approve this item today, will you be continue this position in your adjusted base budget for the 25-27 biennium and funding the position with transfers from the DHRM?
Thank you so much for the question. Yes, Chair, Teresa Benitez Thompson for the record. So that is the conversation that we've had with the GFO's office as well as with DHRM, that right now we couldn't do the AG cost assessment to create the position. Those tend to run at about 3 years arrears for payment. So that's why we need the funding just for this biennium for the position, then build it into base budget going forward for the next biennium, when I know you guys are also excited to be here again, and then pull that cost allocation from DHRM for the ongoing support of that position. So we won't come back to you other than the next fiscal year to complete out the biennium. But subsequent bienniums, we won't be coming back to you in this way from this fund.
Thank you. Majority Leader Canizero?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. And just sort of along some of the same lines, because I think one of the bigger concerns that the speaker kind of asked about was sort of the differences. And obviously, I think competitiveness, that could be true, and probably in a number of openings that you all have. Can you talk to us a little bit about like what the special counsel's duties will be with respect to the Department of Human Resources Management? Because I think that might be a little helpful in what exactly it is they're going to be doing in that unit.
Thank you so much, and happy to answer that question. We did talk a lot about, Teresa Benitez Thompson for the record, to Majority Leader Canizaro. So we did have lots of conversations about how to put this together, and so part of the consideration was kind of the breadth and the depth of the work that's being done, and the fact that we're very much in a foundational phase at sorting out this chapter and this work. So they do everything from negotiating the agreements, handling disputes, EMRB actions, district court actions. So there's the whole realm of stuff to do. There's also, as we look on the horizon, the fact that not every unit that is allowed to organize has organized. So as you know, per SB 135, there are 11 units allowed to organize. 7 of them right now are organized under 5 units. So we anticipate that there's going to be more work coming down the road as more folks do tend to organize. It's at least there in statute for that. The complexity of the work, the experience has been, is that we need someone who knows and has experience in labor relations law. We need someone to come into the office to provide that for us. Right now, the deputy attorney generals are being assigned to this work. They're having to learn it. They're getting burned out in not only carrying their additional duties, but now becoming proficient in this whole other area of law. So we have had, and you'll hear DHRM say, as they've said to us, a little bit of a carousel in the folks who are assigned to them. And it's because it is. We're pulling folks from the division to work on this because we don't have a dedicated staff. It is complex. We need to be able to go out and recruit a seasoned attorney and someone who's done work in this area, because quite frankly, we don't have that right now. We have the one position vacant, and then we've got 0.5. We've got an attorney who spends half their time on this, and they are a very great attorney. They're wonderful, and knowing how hard this can be, they've actually given us about 5 months' notice that they're going to be leaving in the summer, so we're about to have 0. So the only other option we would have, quite frankly, then, is to go to outside counsel and do a contract with outside counsel, and that would be the least economical option. This would be the more economical option because those rates for contracting outside counsel get pretty steep, and with the amount of hours that we anticipate, it's going to be a bigger bill than going this route first.
And so with this position, then they would be essentially advising DHRM on actions that they might be taking, especially with respect to sort of collective bargaining and how that is operating within the state to provide some sort of legal guidance there.
Correct. Teresa Benitez Thompson, to put it succinctly, soup to nuts.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair.
All right, you look like you had another question. Assemblywoman Dickman.
Just a quick question, but it sounds like with the complexity of this job, I'm wondering how easy do you think it's going to be to fill it at this salary?
And thank you so much for the question, Assemblywoman Dickman, Teresa Benitez Thompson, Attorney General Ford's office. So we know we have an uphill battle in recruiting for this position. We are going to be very active in how we recruit for them. We believe that we have had success in retaining the other special counsels that we have. They come into the position, they learn the body of work. And for folks who enjoy this line of work, this could be a great spot to come and grow with the state in this foundational work that we're doing in these first few years of establishing what is the law for labor relations for our state employees. So we believe that it will be exciting work and enticing work. We think we'll get someone. We're going to work very hard to get someone, and we believe that this will be the way to do it. I should add, as a layer that might also feed into the last question that Senator Cannizzaro asked, in order to accomplish this work, we've also pulled attorneys in from even like our Solicitor General to help on different types of cases because there's complexity here, right? So it's kind of been pulling hours from all different types of attorneys, and we need a specialized special counsel who knows this.
Thank you, and thanks, Madam Chair.
Thank you, members. Any other questions? So with that, in approving this item today, if we approve, I would accept a motion to approve it for the unclassified special counsel position for FY 2024, but direct your office to continue the position in its adjusted base budget for the 25-27 biennium, but the funding for the position with the transfers from the DHRM budget. And also direct the GFO's office to review the DHRM's budget reserves to determine if the new position could be supported in the FY25 in whole or in part with the funds transferred from that agency. And with that, I would accept that motion.
So moved, Madam Chair.
Backus, second.
We have a motion and a second on the motion. Any discussion before we go to a vote? Not seeing any discussion. All in favor of the motion, please say aye. Any opposed? Not seeing any in opposition, the motion does carry. Thank you so much for being here today. And with that, we'll move on to the next item on our agenda, which is F2C, and that is the Department of Education.
Good afternoon, Deputy Superintendent Megan Peterson for the record. The first item we have before you today is a request for contingency funds for special education services. The school district has exhausted all options for interventions with a student who has severe needs above and beyond what they're able to provide services for, and so they're requesting support in the amount of $337,914. I am available for any questions.
Thank you, and I know that we do have a few questions. We'll start with Assemblywoman Backus.
Madam Chair, I'm hoping the Nevada Department of Education is also prepared to talk about items 2C and T6B. I was hoping to dive into the SAIN, if that's okay.
You know what? Why don't we go ahead, and if you want to go ahead and do the presentation for 2T6B, if I can get it out, and then we can ask the questions on both items. Thank you.
Deputy Superintendent Megan Peterson for the Department of Education, yes. Our second request is for an amended amount of $193,750 $750 for a contract with a new vendor, new in name but not in services, to support our state longitudinal data system. And I am available for any questions.
Okay, well, now we'll go to the questions. And we'll start with Assemblywoman Backus.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. I have a couple questions, but I think Ms. Peterson may have already resolved one of my questions with amending the sum that's being sought from the $498,000 down to that $193,750 amount. And so with that, my first question, Ms. Peterson, is, as I understand that an RFP was developed and revised in April of 2023 that included the enhancements and an increased scope of work beyond just the maintenance of the current system. This appeared to occur while we were still in our wonderful 120-day legislative session. And my first question is, why was it that the additional funding was not asked during the 82nd legislative session?
Megan Peterson for the record. In alignment with the procedures that are in place during the solicitation process, we were not able to discuss the terms of the contract. We hadn't selected a vendor yet, and so we were not aware of what the total increase would be at that time.
And then with respect to this new system, why is it that the department is requesting to replace its current longitudinal data system contract 6 months prior to expiration with a more expensive contract with the exact same vendor? I know the vendor has changed names, but it's essentially the same, and it looks like we're paying double for these 6 months. Can you kind of reconcile that for us?
Megan Peterson for the record. The confusion likely lies with the fact that we had to extend through a no-cost extension the existing contract to ensure that we had, for lack of a better example right now, life support services to maintain the existing software that was in place. And so we have some overlap from the prior contract with the existing, and that is partially what has led to the decrease in the amount asked. We did go back and work with the vendor to reduce it so that way we didn't have overlap of those costs.
And as I understand, obviously this system is a lot more expensive, and that there were additional items and features being added. Can you kind of go over what those new system features and enhancements are with the ANLAR contract?
Megan Peterson for the record. Yes, those additional features allow us to support the increased needs for cybersecurity around the personally identifiable information that may be housed in that system. And so this is keeping us in alignment with those requirements to protect that data.
And then last but not least, just out of curiosity, I know with our COVID-19 relief funds, some of the ESSER money could have been used for some of the software. Can you discuss why the savings identified in the COVID-19 relief funds cannot be utilized for this new project to enhance the Student Accountability Information Network system rather than a request from the IFC contingency account?
Megan Peterson for the record. Based on the agreement that we had entered into with the Legislative Counsel Bureau in April of this year, our intent was to stay within the same veins of project type in terms of reallocating existing COVID relief dollars to new projects. And so the dollars that we had currently identified as possible savings have already been allocated to similar projects in terms of contracts. And the additional funds that we currently have identified as potential savings were in the vein of personnel. And so we didn't believe that those were in alignment with the agreement that we had made.
Thank you.
So in ESSER 3, there's $277 million remaining in the funding, and you don't believe that the $193,750, which should be the adjusted amount, could be utilized from that funding instead of coming to contingency funds? Is all of that? And the last time I checked, and I could be wrong, LCB doesn't make agreements. So could you just kind of clarify what you meant by that?
Megan Peterson for the record. So when we produced our budgets and plans for the ESSER and COVID relief dollars, we identified our projects at a level that other agencies hadn't provided that level of detail. And so instead of giving high-level concepts, we went into some pretty nitty-gritty details of how every dollar was going to be spent. As time has progressed and projects have been able to be implemented or not due to timing, we identified that we had opportunities to be able to reallocate and redirect the dollars. Based on the amount of time that we have to do that, we had conversations with the Fiscal Analysis Division that said along the lines of the fact that in order to prevent delays and in order to allow us to flexibly reallocate those dollars, that in turn we would provide a quarterly report, as we are doing later today, that shows the progress of the expenditures of those funds. And so as to not require discussions along the terms of approvals for redirecting those funds, we would stay within like pots of funding. And so if we had contracts for the department, we would not redirect those funds to subgrants with school districts or vice versa. Subgranted funds to school districts would stay as subgrants. But changing the direction of that project, say from school-based mental health to reading projects, we were staying within those same areas. And so those were conversations that we had had this April that has precipitated in these quarterly reports, but also has given us the flexibility to redirect the funds as the project initiatives have changed based on responses to the COVID pandemic.
So if I understand what you're saying correctly, and please correct me if I'm wrong, there's nothing that would prevent you from utilizing the funds that are remaining, because there's remaining funds from SR1, SR2, and SR3 to the grand total of over $291 million. There's nothing preventing you from changing the method of asking for the funds, other than the fact that you chose to come to IFC for the contingency funds instead of using those remaining funds. That was a choice made.
Megan Peterson, for the record, under SR1 funds, we no longer have access to those funds. That period has expired. So those funds cannot be used for this purpose. In terms of SR2, those have also reached their expiration date, although we are in late liquidation for projects that have already been approved. Those funds cannot be redirected to new projects such as this. In terms of SR3, those funds have been obligated to other projects and have not been identified as savings yet because they are obligated and promised to various parties that we have been working with.
Thank you for that. So we lost that money from SR1 and SR2 because we did not utilize it. And in September 30th of 2024, if the projects that you said that are accounted for, you do not use the whole $277 million, that is also money we would be losing. So my ask of you is if you would give us an actual documentation of what those projects are. I don't know if you're going to have that later today, but if not, at our next IFC meeting, so we know exactly what those projects are and the funding that will go to them to ensure that we're not, that we're utilizing every dollar that came into the state and we're not leaving any money on the table when a grant expires, as we did with SR1 and SR2. So I would ask that you do that. And then as you were discussing special education at the top of your comments, just in a related issue for special education, during the last session, the legislature approved additional general fund appropriations of $11.1 million in FY 2024 and $13.8 million in FY 2025 to the account for state special education services to provide a minimum level of state special education funding on a per pupil basis. And that basis was $4,115 based on the projected populations at that time. It was the intent that those monies be provided to Clark and Lyon school districts, the university schools, and charter schools, as they were the only local education agencies that did not meet the statewide average per pupil amount. I have another ask for you. Can you please provide to this committee at its next meeting in February a report detailing how the additional funding was distributed to increase the minimum per pupil amount for those local education agencies? It's very important to me. I know we're only here for 120 days, and sometimes when we leave, people think we're not watching what's going on, but we're here for 120 days, but we serve 24/7, 365 days a year, and we have the responsibility of making sure that legislation that is passed, directions that is made, those are followed. So if you could bring that to our next meeting, I would be very much appreciative. Members, any other questions on this agenda item? Senator Gansert.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think there was just a statement that we lost $1.3 million and then $13 million and then 273. Are there still outstanding bills? So we haven't necessarily lost those. That money just hasn't been spent yet. Could you just provide clarification on that? Thank you.
Megan Peterson for the record, and yes, thank you for that question. Those dollars are not lost. We are still going through the late liquidation process, and so we have not reverted those dollars yet. Just because the funding period has ended, we still have the ability to draw those funds and continue to pay out those dollars. And so those are not lost dollars.
Thank you. And when you talked about reverting, so do you have any expectation of reverting hundreds of millions of dollars or tens of millions of dollars, or what is? Do you have an idea what that's going to look like?
Megan Peterson for the record, because we are still going through that process and working with our subrecipients to get those dollars requested and reimbursed, we don't have that amount at this time, but our goal is to not revert a single dollar. And I would also like to clarify, in terms of the $11.1 million, we did distribute that on a per pupil basis after we allocated the funds based on methodologies that we have previously used. And so any remaining dollars after we increased the roll-up with the 1.5 million for pupils over the 13% cap, we awarded funds on a per pupil basis to those entities.
Thank you, and if I could get that in writing to know exactly how much went to Clark, Lyon, the university schools, and the charter schools, because that's where that money was supposed to go and no other entities. So,
Megan Peterson for the record, we will provide that.
thank you. And then you did state that there's still bills outstanding with SR 1 and SR 2 that will be paid. If you could also provide to this committee what those outstanding bills are, so we would know if there will be any money left on the table or if it will all be utilized to pay out those.
Megan Peterson, we will. That was provided up to October 30th as part of our quarterly report, and we'll be providing an update in our next quarterly report as well.
Thank you so much. So with that, any other questions or comments? Not seeing any here, any in Las Vegas. Not seeing any hands raised in Las Vegas. With that, I'll entertain a motion.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would move that we today deny the current request and direct the department to review funding alternatives prior to the existing contract expiring on June 30th of 2024.
Backus, second.
We have a motion, and it's been seconded on C. And we'll have a separate motion on 2A. This one is on 2C, and we'll have a separate motion on 2A. Any discussion, questions on the motion?
Here, Madam Chair. Madam Chair.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
So go ahead, I turned my mic
I
off.
didn't hear you. Okay, thank you. I just want to understand if we deny this, if there's going to be a gap in services, or if you're going to be able to continue the services and make sure that we get the new programming online as well, the new platform.
Megan Peterson for the record, without these funds, we wouldn't be able to begin the new work because it's not covered under the existing contract.
Thank you. So would we be continuing the status quo then versus starting to add the modules to the platform, or do we not have a system?
Megan Peterson for the record, we would not be able to start the new work, but we would have maintenance of the existing system as it is today.
Okay, thank you.
And thank you, Madam Chair. I wanted to also just note, I think that what we're seeing is that if we deny this approval for this contingency request for F2C at this point, that this would provide an opportunity for the department to return with a request for consideration in 2020 for FY 2025 to continue the maintenance portion of the contract and then identify any other eligible COVID-19 funding to support the enhancements.
No, just may make another comment.
Go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. So I'm going to support this because it sounds like you're going to be able to maintain what you have, and I think it's worth another look at sources of funds, given that we have robust funds available, and I'm not sure. I think it's worth a second look to see if there's anything that can be transferred out of some of the ESSER dollars that exist. And I appreciate that we'll be able to continue the work that we currently have, though we won't be able to add the modules as soon as we were anticipating. Thank you.
Thank you. And are there any other comments, questions? All right, seeing none, all in favor of the motion, please say aye. Any opposed? And the motion carries. Now we'll go back and I'll entertain a motion for 2A.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And in this motion, I would move to approve the request for an allocation of $337,914 to the account for state special education services to reimburse school districts and charter schools for extraordinary program expenses and related services.
Back a second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on the motion? Not seeing any here in Carson City. Are there any questions or comments on the motion in Las Vegas? All right, not seeing any. All in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? And the motion carries. Thank you. Moving on to the next item on our agenda will be F3, the State Department of Conservation and Natural Resources. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the committee. My name is Dominic Etchegoyen, and I'm a Deputy Director with the Nevada Department of Conservation and Natural Resources. I have with me today Bob Mergel. He is our Administrator for the Nevada Division of State Parks. We're here today on item F3 for an allocation from the IFC contingency account request in the amount of $225,332 to support 3 new positions and the associated costs at Ice Age Fossils State Park. This item was heard and approved unanimously by the BOE yesterday. It is my understanding that we would also be considering this item together with List T, item B.
12B?
I'm sorry, 12B.
Correct.
Which is a request for a full-time employee position to be placed in the new gift shop also located at Ice Age Fossils State Park. That position is separate, however, because it will be funded through the enterprise fund account, which is through the sales of goods at the gift shop. Regarding these first 3 positions, however, as you know, we're very excited to finally be opening Ice Age Fossil State Park. So thank you for bearing with us over these last years. We have experienced challenges in time frame and costs. We went through a planning and development phase, and then as we began construction, the site had no infrastructure at all when it was created as a state park. So we had to build all of it. And together with COVID and the challenges faced there, but also more recently when we're dealing with Build America, Buy America Act, which is part of the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act of 2021, we have been required to source all of our materials, and particularly steel and iron and other goods, from American sources, and that's because we've used federal funds together with the state funds on this project. So our Land and Water Conservation Fund money, our Recreational Trails Program funding. So it's worthy to support those U.S. companies, but it has also been challenging, and it has created additional timeframes and additional costs. We wanted to wait until we were absolutely positive we were ready to open this park, and I'm here to announce that we are, and we're requesting these 4 positions. Specifically, the 3 positions we're looking here are a park interpreter, a park maintenance specialist, an administrative assistant 3, and again, a gift shop employee. And I'm available to take any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. This has been a long time in coming. I think we started on this in 2017. And it was just dirt and fossils out there. But if you drive by now, the building's up, the parking lot's in, the Mammoth is up. So we've made great strides. but there's no income coming in right now. So when does the agency anticipate the new positions would be hired on, and how would the operations of the state park be covered until that time? I know you just mentioned that there's some federal dollars, but could you elaborate a little bit more on that?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for the question. Again, Dominique Etchegoyen, Deputy Director, Nevada Department of Conservation and Natural Resources. We are actually ahead on this. We're recruiting as we speak with the hope that this would be supported. We're always recruiting for vacant positions. We've also included these positions that we're recruiting for currently. We do have lists that we've received, particularly for the interpreters. We would be interviewing possibly this week and next week, and we'd be ready to hire as soon as we have the legislative authority to do so. If we do not have the authority to do so, we do have a couple positions on lit administrator. Miguel tell us the number of positions we have, but we would be able to open it on a limited capacity, probably looking at weekends, but we wouldn't be able to keep the park open all through the week with the limited park staff that we have currently.
Bob Miguel, Administrator for Nevada Division of State Parks, for the record. We do have two permanent positions down there right now, a park supervisor and a park interpreter. So we have minimal staffing, but we will be able to keep the park open on weekends up until we hopefully can get these positions approved and subsequently filled.
Perfect. And do you anticipate that additional positions will be requested in the future once the park is open and fully operational?
It is my understanding that we do not anticipate additional positions.
Bob Miguel, for the record, that's correct. These positions should be good enough. I'm not going to make any promises I can't keep. I don't know what the visitation to that park is going to look like with what we're anticipating. This should be fine for the foreseeable future. But if it is insane down there, then I might be coming back asking for some more bodies a few years down the road, but it won't be anytime soon.
I appreciate your honesty in that. Oftentimes people say, no, we're not going to come back for more money, and then the next legislative session, they find that they need to, so I appreciate that. Members, do you have any questions? Yes, Senator Titus.
Thank you, and thank you for being here today, and thank you for making some progress on this finally. One of the things that we found after the COVID and people being shut up, that we have actually almost loved our Nevada outdoors to death and overused it. And so I'm glad the question was asked if this was going to be enough employees, because I anticipate that this is going to be, I myself have been out in that area and really like looking at fossils and excited to be there when it's officially opened and can actually get some professional interpretation. So I'm glad that you're open to, depending on the usage and depending on the visitation and all, I'm excited to see yet another opportunity for Nevadans to enjoy the out of doors that we all love so much. So thank you for moving forward this. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Members, any other questions or comments here in Carson City? Not seeing any. Anyone in Las Vegas with a question or comment? All right, not seeing any at this time. So with that, I understand that, park fees are normally part of the budget. We don't have any fees coming in. So like I said in the beginning, and you said in your statement, we've been working on this since 2017 and happy to see it going. So I'd entertain a motion that we approve the 3 new positions, and we consider the approving of the allocation of the $225,332 for FY24 from our IFC contingency account. But I'd like to direct the department to continue these 3 positions in its adjusted base budget for the 25-27 biennium with a combination of general fund appropriations and park usage fees. So with that stated, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
So moved to approve, Madam Chair.
Back a second.
We have a first and a second. Any discussion on the motion? Assemblyman Yeager.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm certainly supportive of the motion, excited about a new state park. I did just want to publicly recognize, I don't know if committee members recall, but the Helmsley Charitable Trust with their trustee Walter Panzier actually granted $3.5 million to the state to be able to finish this state park. And as you noted, this is 6 or 7 years in the making. So I wanted to again publicly recognize that very large grant that was made to the state to finish this and express my appreciation for that.
Thank you. We are very most appreciative of those funds. Any other comments in Las Vegas? Not seeing any. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
And please let us know the exact dates for your soft opening and the grand opening, if they change at all.
Bob Muriel, for the record, January 16th will be our ribbon cutting. So that is pretty much set in as much stone as we're allowed to have.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to the next item on our agenda is item G, and it's a request for allocation from the IFC Contingency Highway Funds from the DMV. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the committee. For the record, Julie Butler, Director, Nevada Department of Motor Vehicles. And with me to my left is Renato Lara. He's our Deputy Administrator of our Field Services Division. We are here today to request $517,500 from the Highway Fund contingency for a new contract for a new queuing system in the Field Services budget account. Our request was approved unanimously yesterday at the Board of Examiners. The current contract is with our current vendor is expiring on April 30th of 2024. A request for proposals was completed, and the current vendor was not able to provide the features that were requested in the solicitation. Through the process, there was an unanticipated increase in cost of $517,500 over the current biennium budget authority in the information services category. The budget account does not have the excess authority in any category that can be work programmed to cover this shortfall. The new system's features align with the department's vision and mission and will greatly improve the customer experience. In addition, the contract includes a no-cost 6-month pilot period that will coincide with the phase-out of the existing contract to ensure a smooth and successful transition between the systems. If approved, we will build the difference, the contractual difference, into our 26-27 adjusted base budget. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you so much. We do have a few questions, and we'll start with Assemblywoman Anderson.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for bringing forward this information. My first question has to do with it's the funding related to the increased scope of work for the new queuing system. That was discussed or requested during the 2023 legislative session, yet it was never brought forward to our body. Can you tell us why?
Thank you for the question, Julie Butler, for the record. The issue was timing. So we didn't go out for solicitation until April of 2023, and we didn't actually execute or finish the contract negotiations until July, after the body had adjourned for the session. And so, and it wasn't until we got the proposals back and we looked at the cost proposals that we realized that there was a significant difference in cost between what we had budgeted in base for our current contract and what this new costs were going to be.
If I may follow up? Thank you. You mentioned during your presentation as well that there were some new system features that are not provided currently. Can you go into a little bit more details of those?
Sure. I'm going to have Renato Lara handle that.
For the record, Renato Lara. So the new system will provide some features that will allow us to continue on with our DTE efforts, such as IP blocking for some of the websites that actually tend to sell some of these appointments. We know that the DV appointments are a hot commodity just because they are out. This new vendor will also provide 5 million outbound text messages and unlimited inbound text messages. Just to put it into perspective, the current vendor only allows for 1 million text messages at a cost of $70,000 per fiscal year, and that combines both the outbound and the inbound. So this functionality will also help anytime there's any issues with the department, if there's any snow days or unforeseen closures, we will actually be able to communicate with the residents of Nevada not to come into the DMV, which is, sometimes in the past we've had some of those concerns from the residents of Nevada that, they show up to the DMV and we're closed. So this is one of those features that can really enhance our communication with the public. This system would also allow for geofencing. So what that would allow is actually the customers to actually check in within a set distance from where they're coming to the DMV. They don't actually have to go into the office to check in. They can just go right in, sit down. They'll let the app know that they're there. And one of the other awesome things the system will also bring to the platform is it will integrate with Salesforce, which will be the platform that we're using for the new system that will be for our DT effort also.
Thank you. If I may continue. So then you also mentioned that there would be a no-cost 6-month pilot program. With that pilot program, who would be determine if the Waitwell Inc.'s pilot success, who would be part of that pilot discussion, I guess?
For the record, Renata Lara. So there is a committee that is heading the program itself. We will have the director, Julie Butler, be part of that also, and the deputy director also making that decision along with myself, the deputy administrator, and the administrator of the Field Services Division.
I'm so sorry. So there's just 3 members of it, is that correct? Or are there other members of the public as well?
There's going to be other members also. We can provide that to you if needed.
And then could you please discuss the department's contingency plan for the customer queuing if the Waitwell Inc. pilot is determined to not be as successful, as unfortunately we've had that experience before?
Julie Butler for the record. If the pilot is not successful, we would have to regroup and go back to the drawing board. We have no reason to believe that it won't be successful. This particular vendor has similar contracts for this system in other states. Don't anticipate that happening, but we would then have to look to extend our existing contract. If they would be willing, I don't suppose that they would at the current price that we're currently paying them. So we would have to see what happens at that point.
Well, hopefully I didn't put some bad juju out there with that one. So let's
Hopefully not.
let's knock on wood on that one. So I'm sure it'll be successful. That's good to know, though, that it's just, there's a plan. It's not automatically that we move forward. So my last question has more to do with, why are the contingency funds being requested at this time if we have until April 14th to determine whether or not this would make sense?
Julie Butler again for the record, and thank you for the question. We're requesting the funds at this time because in good faith with the vendor, we've agreed to this no-cost pilot to transition, but they are going to want to know that funding is guaranteed. So it's just really as a signal to the vendor that we're serious, we have funding in the bank, and we're ready to go.
Thank you. So having the funding in your bank or the legislative bank, the funding is there, but they haven't proven if the pilot is going to work. So I good faith, I just, maybe it's just me being silly, but I don't agree with having this money move now would show good faith. You can come back. We're talking April of 2024, and we're in December of 2023. And have you started the pilot at all yet? Has the pilot started yet? Because it was a no-cost pilot, so there was no money associated with the pilot.
For the record, Renato Lara. So we are in discussions of starting the pilot. We do have a timeline that we have already put together, so we are in the process of starting it. We were waiting to come to the committee to get guidance as to if we're going to have the funds or not. Again, most of these vendors, they will provide the no-fee pilot, but again, they also want assurance that we're going to be able to pay them at the end of the day once we are able to implement the pilot also.
Another silly question, have you ever done business with this company before that you reneged on a payment or anything? That they would think that the state of Nevada Department of Motor Vehicles would renege on a payment with them?
No, Madam Chair, we've not done business with this vendor before. Julie Butler for the record.
Members, any other questions? Senator Gokachia.
Thank you, and I'm going to get a little further into the weeds. We're talking about 41 of these self-service kiosks in the queuing system, but are we going to reach out into the rurals? Because clearly, that's one of the biggest complaints I get all the time. The calls I get are how long they have to wait at DMV, even in the rural areas, whether it's Winnemucca, Elko, even Ely. So are we going to get some of this queuing available out in the rurals as well?
For the record, Renato Lara, this queuing system will allow us to customize every location the way that we need to. So to answer your question, yes, we'll be able to get this queuing system out there, and we could potentially have appointments at those rural locations also.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Assemblyman O'Neill.
Just for clarification, the 6-month trial period, will some of that be out in the rurals also? Or is it just going to be in Vegas, Reno, Carson? Where are you going to do your testing at?
For the record, Renato Lara, we are going to be piloting the pilot at the Reno office as the Metro office, and we are also going to pilot it in the Reno CDL office, which is very similar in size to a rural office, to implement some of these features to see how they will assist some of the rural offices.
I was just going to, is there any chance that you actually do the pilot out in one of the rurals? Because they do have different areas. The services, the ISPs aren't probably as proficient as they are in whether you're in Reno or Washoe County. So would that be a consideration?
For the record, Renato Lara, we can definitely take that under consideration. Part of the decision why we have the pilots in the Reno location is because we do have the support of our IT staff. As you well know, most of our IT staff is located in Carson City or Las Vegas area, so it does take quite a while to get down to some of these rural offices if there are any issues with hardware or software.
I appreciate that. I'll just make the comment. I think it would show, make the rurals feel that they're actually part of Nevada and reduce some of the issues that we receive, that we transfer over to you to receive, if at least you try there with, say, Elko. So I appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. So I have another question. So let's say the money is approved today, this work program is approved today. You start the pilot, which you haven't started yet, and you find out it's determined that they don't meet the scope of the expectations that you have. What happens with that funding that would be approved today?
Julie Butler for the record. If the pilot is not successful, which again, we don't have any reason to believe that it will not be successful, we would look to, in consultation with state purchasing, to go to the second ranking vendor in our request for proposals process, or reissue the request for proposals and rebid.
And the next bid could be lower or higher than this one, correct?
That is correct.
So our next IFC meeting is February. You haven't started the pilot, so we don't even know if it's gonna go. What impact, negative or positive, would there be to bring this back at the February IFC after you've gotten the pilot started? and we can see the progress of what's going on with the pilot program.
Julie Butler again for the record. We could come back in February if that's the desire of this body.
Assemblyman O'Neill?
Thank you, Chair. I'm trying to figure out how to phrase this into a question, because what I'd like to suggest is you're having the committee is, would it show good faith to your, what is it called? I forget the name of the company. Yeah, whatever, Wellweight. If one of the legislators from this committee actually sat on the review process, that we are taking this program seriously and would be able to report back to us during the next committee hearing, next IFC meeting in
Are you
February.
volunteering yourself?
Well, I should keep my mouth shut. I'm trying to figure out, because I understand, Chair, and I want to support them. I think it's great, because I have been buried with, as I'm sure we all have, particularly in Las Vegas, with these issues of DMV and their wait lines and the appointments, et cetera, et cetera. And I can see keeping the money in our bank account, but I do want to show good faith to the providers that we are taking it seriously, and we want to address this. So I just offer that up for consideration.
So Assemblyman O'Neill is offering himself for your committee. He's such a generous person. But I do think this committee is intent on making sure that DMV works better than it currently does, and we'll do whatever we need to do to help that. But I'm also concerned that the pilot has not started, and I'd like to see the pilot get started and then come back in February as to where we are. We are committed to making sure that this program works, but I'd like to see that no-cost pilot get started first.
Thank you, Madam Chair, for that. Julie Butler for the record. I think there was some question as to whether we could start the contract without the funding or that's why we're here today. Again, it's all timing. So I think, I've been in discussions with GFO and how we move forward. At the end of the day, what I want is what you want, which is a successful queuing system, and to eliminate the calls that you get, the calls that we get. And so I'll, in conjunction with Director Stevenson, figure out how we can start this pilot and come back to you in February.
Thank you. I would appreciate that. And I don't know if a legislator can be on an executive branch committee, so we'd have to look at that too. But you can, show the video of this hearing to your vendor to let them know we are committed to making this work.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
It's back in February. Okay?
And thank you, Assemblyman O'Neill, for generously volunteering.
Thank you so much. So, given that, I would accept a motion to deny this motion at this time and bring it back at our February meeting.
So moved, Madam Chair.
Back a second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? The motion carries. We'll see you back here in February. Thank you. Moving on to the next item on our agenda. It is our Indigent Defense Fund. Good afternoon.
Thank you, Chair, members of the committee. My name is Marcy Reba, and I serve as the Executive Director of the Department of Indigent Defense Services. Here with me today are Deputy Directors Thomas Quells and Peter Handy. Today, we are making a request for an allocation of $765,583 from Assembly Bill 518, Section 7 funds for fiscal year 2024 for the Department of Indigent Defense Services to comply with the Davis v. State consent judgment in the following areas: compliance with oversight, compliance with training, compliance with workload standards, and compliance with the data collection and reporting requirements. The request that we're presenting to you today is based upon concerns that the court-appointed Davis monitor has expressed in the 9th report, and our requests today are to meet those recommendations that she is setting forth for us to achieve compliance therein. And we're available for any questions you may have.
Thank you so much. I know that we do have just a few questions, and I am going to go to Majority Leader Canizaro.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good, afternoon at this point. Can you please start with providing us an update on the state's compliance with the Davis judgment, and if there are any other areas of concern and recommendations identified by the court monitor that are planned to be addressed in FY24?
Yes, I think that, Marcy Reba, for the record, the biggest area that we've recently come into compliance with is we were required to engage in a workload summary that made a recommendation of how many attorneys are needed across our rural counties. We initially engaged someone, the National Center for State Courts, to start that study prior to COVID happening. Of course, with COVID, things didn't go quite as planned, and the study took a lot longer, but it recently was accepted and approved by our board in November, and we have 12 months to obtain compliance with that workload study. The workload generally recommends that we need 90 public defenders across our rural counties, and right now we have about 60. So we need to find 30 more rural public defenders to find, to place into these areas. At the department, we've separated our rural counties equally among each of us, directors and deputy directors, and we're actually going out there, meeting with all of them, and we've actually contacted every rural county to start thinking of creative plans to achieve compliance. So future requests may be requests for pipelines if we're able to try and determine how we can get public defenders into those rural areas. But basically, that's the biggest thing that we have on our plate at this point, is finding those attorneys. The other issue that we've been constantly struggling with is oversight. We just don't have the staff to be able to go out into our rural counties and meet the oversight requirements that the Davis monitor expects. She expects someone to be sitting in the courtroom, watching court, talking to judges, talking to defendants, asking what's going on, reviewing pleadings, looking at time that's spent, and ensuring that they're complying with our minimum standards, as well as ADKT 411 and the ABA standards as well. So what the monitor believes that the stipulated consent judgment requires is a very intense level of supervision that the three of us just aren't able to do when we have to do all of our other duties as well. The training requirements, we have been, I think that the monitor's concern is that the funding provided for training for public defenders is not on par with the funding provided to our prosecutors. So she would like to see some parity in the funding that's being provided, and that we're hoping with our plans for training that we're going to really bring up our rural public defenders to a higher level by giving them that opportunity to go to different areas that they may not have been able to do before. And then finally, compliance with data collection and reporting requirements. Our request today to provide Westlaw or another case management research program to our public defenders is really something that we're hoping will help them be in compliance with providing data to us. They are not paid any extra to provide the data. They are doing this, taking time out of their own day to give us that data. But we're hoping that if we give them this carrot of a case management or this online research system, and this is something that all the district attorneys have, so I think our public defenders should have it too, so they're on a level playing field. We're hoping that when we address these 4 areas that the monitor has brought up, that will be able to make substantial steps towards compliance with the stipulated consent judgment. So these are the things that we foresee in the next year, but our biggest hurdle will be finding attorneys to go into our rural counties.
Thank you for that. And I see in this particular request, so we're talking about AB 518 monies for this particular request. The majority of it appears to be for the administrative assistant position and then for 2 contract attorney positions, which, as I understand, well, why don't you talk to us a little bit about the reasoning for the having 2 contract attorney positions as opposed to having more permanent positions in those roles?
Thank you, Deputy Director Tom Qualls, QUA LLS, for the record. The main reason for contract over salaries is just that we can't bring in an attorney position under the state that is competitive with county and private practice. The main way that we've learned that is through the State Public Defender's Office. We have struggled to staff that office and had positions open for a very long time without even any applicants. And so upon review of that, we reformulated this to go with contract positions instead of salaries so that we would have a chance of being more successful. And we have measured and managed the hourly rates in the various counties for appointed counsel in different kinds, depending on the level of cases, and looked at what the CJA rate is going for. So those are all the reasons.
And these positions, as I understand it from your description then, are probably going to be needed on an ongoing and going forward basis, even though they're contract attorney positions. Do I have that right?
Marcy Reba, for the record, yes, that is correct. The requirement to provide oversight is specifically set forth in NRS 180, and it's also an agreement in the stipulated consent judgment. So even if the stipulated consent judgment is to close, we still have that requirement, the statutory requirement, to provide oversight that this legislature set forth.
And then these contract attorney positions are meant for that purpose, right, for the oversight. And so they're sort of monitoring and providing that training and experience and sort of watching what everything is happening. So do you foresee that as being, those are also positions then for oversight that would be continuing on in the future?
Marcy Reba, for the record, yes, these positions would continue on in the future. What we're hoping to do is find attorneys that can go out to these rural counties that are inspirational and, you know, they have that experience that people can look up to and really respect. We don't want to bring our public defenders down. We want to build them up. And, you know, that's really what we're looking for is just to provide an oversight, to provide training, and just give them that inspiration of things that they can achieve in their own positions. And yes, these would be needed moving forward.
And I think that that's kind of the the biggest point that that I would make in reviewing this particular request is that, you know, these funds that we set aside in AB 518, these I think these are an appropriate use of those funds, but it seems like because they're going to be ongoing in nature, that as we look to building budgets for the next biennium, that this is actually built into that for your department, because I don't think that continuing to set aside like these additional funds for these ongoing, what we know are going to be future needs, and even though they're contract attorney positions, which makes total sense, that this would be built into your base budget as positions, and so that we can allocate, you know, what we believe is going to be the right amount of money, understanding there's always changes. That's why we're here in IFC. But that way, on a going forward basis, we're accounting for these, I think, in an appropriate fashion in the budget. So that would be, I guess, my request, Madam Chair, with respect to this, so that we can make sure that that these expenditures that are ongoing are included, not just the contract attorney positions, but anything else that you might see, for example, the Westlaw and that kind of stuff, as it's ongoing, that it's built into that budget, so that we know next session as we're approving that, this is what we're going to be funding.
Senator Titus.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I need a little clarification. You mentioned that the court-appointed reviewer or oversight of this recommended that there is a need for 90 public defenders out in the rural areas. That doesn't include, obviously, Washoe or Clark, right? That's just the other 15 counties. Is that correct?
Marcy Reba for the record. Just to clarify, the National Center for the State Courts Rural Workload Study is separate from our monitor. So we actually engaged with the National Center for State Courts to do a study and make a recommendation of how many attorneys we need in our rural counties. That study took about 2.5 to 3 years to complete, and it was part of the Davis requirements. We did check that one off the list, and you are correct. It is only for our rural counties. Washoe and Clark were not considered in that study, and they're not part of the study.
But the recommendation was 90, and we currently have 60. Is that what you said?
It's 90 full-time equivalent public defenders, and they defined a full-time equivalent public defender at approximately 1,361 attorney hours a year. And, you know, many of these rural counties rely on contract attorneys, and we believe that contract attorneys could agree to provide more than that amount of time in their contracts per year. So as we're working out and reaching out to the counties, if attorneys want to work weekends and attorneys want to work holidays, they're free to contract for those more amounts, but they are recommending 30 full-time equivalent more attorneys based on just looking at what full-time equivalent are.
And that's where my question was leading. So if we needed 30 more full-time equivalents, and I was looking at what solutions there are out there to kind of fill that void. It's not just attorneys that are in shortage. Healthcare across the spectrum is in need of folks. And so we've looked at innovative ways to fill that void. And I don't know the process. I'm not an attorney. I'm proud of the fact that I'm a physician instead. But would ask that in the medical field, we have internships, externships, rotations. Is there something like that in the public defender realm and possibly these two oversight positions? Would they be able to encourage attorneys to go into this particular line or profession?
Marcy Reba for the record. So part of our request is to have $13,000 for an intern or externship for Boyd School of Law. So what we've done historically is we've provided a $6,500 stipend to pay a student to come to a rural office and to spend the summer there. And we've actually had proof of concept. One of our first interns is actually working at the Carson City Public Defender's Office. So this internship directly led him into that position and made that connection. So our request today is to continue that fund by requesting $13,000 so that we can make that opportunity again for two students to come into our rural counties and experience how beautiful it is, how wonderful it is, and see what the work life is in those public defender's office. So we are hoping that that could lead that in. We're also addressing this issue in other ways. We're looking at Supreme Court rules. We recently had some success in changing a Supreme Court rule so that graduates of law school can come to our rural counties, and we actually reached across the aisle to district attorneys and worked with them on getting this change so that they can work in rural district attorney and public defender offices upon graduation from law school. I don't know if you knew this, but historically you actually had to wait till you passed the bar until you could start practicing law. But with this change, as long as you're working in an organized office under someone's license, you're able to be immediately hired as an attorney. So that is one change that took place. We're also reaching out to see if we can change to increase the limited license so that right now there's a limit. If you're coming from another state and you're working under someone's license, that you're limited to do that for 2 years. It's causing a problem in Elko because they've run out of time with that 2 year. They have one person that hasn't passed the bar. So we're actually hoping that we can get that 2 year time limit removed from our public defender and district attorney's limited license requirements. So we're trying everything we can.
Great, thank you for that, and thank you, Madam Chair, for the question.
Thank you. Speaker Yeager, did you have a question?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I did have a very quick question, and it was just touched upon a little bit in the last response, but I do like this compliance with workload standards idea of stipends for folks to go work in the rural communities. I think that has been the challenge. So my question around that was, $13,000 is a pretty modest amount. It's only 2 students. I just wondered if the demand was there, and not saying we would have to do it today, but for a future consideration, is the demand greater than 2 students? Like, is this an issue of not having enough funding to accommodate the need, or is the need generally about 2 students a year, and that's why we came up with the 13,000?
Hi, Peter Handy for the record. Previously received the $13,000 through a grant from the state bar, and that's how we determined we'd use the funds for 2 students from Boyd to come to one of these rural counties. In the first year we ran this, we only had 2 applicants, and both of them accepted positions in rural counties, one in Carson City and one in Elko. Last year we had the same application out and only received 1 applicant who was placed. So we think that right now 2 is enough. I think in the future we're really hoping to expand that so long as we're having those interested applicants coming in.
And if I may expand upon that, Marcy Reba for the record, part of our limitation was that we had received a grant from the state bar, and we were specifically limited to students from Boyd School of Law. As we know, our rural counties do pull on other law schools when they're seeking to find attorneys to fill our positions in Nevada, and especially rural Nevada. So if we were able to open up this, which we're intending to do with this, we are hoping to have more applicants than we've had with Boyd School of Law. If we can pull from McGeorge and other areas, maybe Utah, where they'd be interested to coming into Nevada. So we are completely open to that.
Any follow-up? All right, members.
No, thank you, Madam Chair. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? With that, I'll entertain a motion.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would move that we approve the allocation of sorry.
I am so sorry. Assemblyman Hafen, you have a question.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I'll make it very brief. I'm just hoping that we could get a copy of the Delphi study that's showing the 50% increase in the required PD contracts that are needed throughout the rural counties. I do have concerns that we're not going to meet that, and so I just kind of like to see that the study itself, and hopefully in that study is a breakdown per county of where the needs are. And if it's not in that study, if you could provide that as well, I would greatly appreciate it. And thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. All right. Are there any other questions or comments? Okay, not seeing any. Now we'll entertain a motion.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And so I would move then that the committee approve the request for allocation of $765,583 from the IFC contingency account pursuant to Section 7 of Assembly Bill 518 from the 2023 legislative session, and then just direct the agency, as we've discussed, that to the extent that any of these are continuing expenditures, that they be included in a base budget so that we can fund these with general fund rather than having to set aside this additional money in contingency accounts.
Thank you. We have a motion. Is there a second? Perfect. We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on the motion? All right, not seeing any. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? And the motion carries. Thank you so much. So as I said, we were going to break at lunch at 2 o'clock, odd time, but for a good reason. So I would ask you all to come back at 2:30, and we'll try to be not 2:30 legislative time, but really 2:30, so that we can get out of here at a decent hour. And I believe the vigil will be online for anyone in the audience that would like to log into the UNLV vigil during this half-hour break. And with that, we're in recess for lunch. And lunch is in room 3137, okay, for members.